Hello, BookTube. We're back with Sunday Reads Live. And I have Jenny here, and she's in front of some mysterious map.
It's all right. There's a lot of fantasy readers. They'll know the map.
Yeah.
Hi, Aaron.
Hi. And yeah, so oh, gee. If I can get through this, still not up to par. Um, how's your week been, reading wise, I guess, and everything else?
Work's been pretty busy because the Euro 24 just started, so we're now open till 10 o'clock. But it means I can get some more reading done because we're quite quiet.
What's Euro 24?
The kind of football for the Euros,
Ah,
it's
okay.
all the European games.
Okay.
And my poor team did not do well in the very first game. My boys failed. The very first game when it was Scotland v Germany, and we got squished like bugs. 5-1.
So what is there? There's a Scottish team, so there's an English team.
England made it as well.
And
I
what
don't know.
about
I
is there
didn't
Wales?
notice how well they did. Wales didn't make it into the Euros this year. Neither did Ireland, actually, which is unusual.
Is there a separate Northern Ireland team, or they
I think
just
so.
lumped in?
Yeah, because there must be because they had a friendly not that long ago with Finland. I think it was.
Hmm, okay.
It's weird.
Eh,
It's like I never used to follow football for a long time, and now I'm stuck with it.
well, as you know, I know so much about it, and I'm supposed to be one of the hosts of the Summer of Sport.
Well,
Well,
luckily,
like I said,
football's only one sport.
well, as I said, that you don't need to be an athlete or anything. You can, like, I was gonna read some history of sport, but I can't find the books. Well, the history that I was gonna read was cricket, I think. I had a cricket history, and I had something like horse racing or steeplechase, something like that. Um, and the Oxford Cambridge boat race. So I figured good opportunity to read those, but I don't know where they are.
On the bright side, chess is also a sport.
Well, I think it was in one of the early of the 20th century Olympics. Poetry writing was part of it too. Poetry writing was a sport, I think. I don't know if that's a myth, but I kind of like that if it was.
Literally just done on demand, given
I
like
don't know.
two prompts go.
I don't know if you can hear that now.
Yeah, I can hear the dogs this time.
And if you can hear that through this mic, then you know how loud it is here. It's
They sound
just
like small dogs too.
well,
Came with a
there's
high pitched bark.
yeah, there's the one that either is young or small, and it's like they need muzzles. Well, probably the owners do as well. The only football I follow is Rangers Celtic matches, but that's not so much football as warfare by other means.
Oh yeah, they get brutal those games. Rangers and Celtic, they're both the Glasgow teams.
Oh, Celtic. Okay.
So it was like originally when the teams were first started, Rangers was the Scottish Protestants, and then the Celtic was the Catholics, came mostly Irish. So those games got brutal.
That might
It's
have been worth watching.
oh god, yeah. They're not so.
Well,
I mean, the rivalries are still strong, but they're not as bad as they used to be. Thank God.
uh,
Because I grew up a Celtic fan.
well, I guess we could get to the books. What have you been reading this week, or what have you finished anything this week?
Yeah, so I finally finished the first two Tarzan books.
Oh, yeah.
At first, I didn't even realize I'd gone into the second one. I was like, oh, that was like very stopped very abruptly, then straight into the next one. I was like, okay. Then I finished Pyramids, which is another Discworld book.
So, what'd
That
you
one's
think of the? Well, I haven't read the Discworld, so but I've read Tarzan. What did you think of Tarzan?
it's very of its time.
Yes.
It was also very convenient that he always seems to show up at the right time. You're like, hmm, he can predict the future, I think.
Yeah, but it's like yeah, you can't think too much about the plots and that. You
Oh, of
just
course
go
not.
for the ride. I think.
No, especially in book two when they all conveniently end up on the same stretch of
Yeah.
coast.
Yeah, I thought that was kind of, yeah, I'm going, really?
Yeah.
Even when I read it when I was like it's one of the few things that I read when I was like my mid-teens. And even then I'm going, yeah, that's convenient.
But I was like, how did Jane not realise how close she was to where she was the first time she got stranded there?
And then guess what happens to their son eventually?
I'm guessing another shipwreck. My God, they really need to stop going on boats.
I can't remember the full details, but he winds up there as well. Tolstoy 111. Hello. So and which number of the Discworld is that? The pyramid you said, or pyramids?
Pyramids, I think, is 7. Yeah, because I'm going to start Guards, which I have read before. It's the only one I've read before because I quite like that one. Guards, I think, is probably my favourite because it's funny.
So which number did you say it was? 17 or
No, I think it's 7.
7? So you only have 639 to go then.
Something like that. It certainly feels that much. But I also finished The Fall, which is Strain Book 2.
Strain. I
Yeah,
don't.
it's vampires.
Okay.
But nice, evil vampires.
Not sparkling bank vampires.
Oh no, you do not want to date these vampires.
Well, I finished one thing actually. I think really only one thing, but I'm still reading. We're still reading Dune, and I won't talk too much about this because we spent a whole hour yesterday talking about book two, Muad'Dib. But other than I did little searching because we were talking about the Brian Herbert, um, him writing all the other stuff, and Debs looked up and saw that there was like 27 in total, I think, including the 6 that Frank Herbert did.
Oh, I swore I could have thought. I thought there was more than that.
Well, I
They
think
just seem
there's
to be never
actually
ending.
a little less in the sense of there's 15 prequels in 5 trilogies, and then they found notes, what they say were a 30-page outline for Dune 7. And then so they've written 2 books, Hunters of Dune and Sandworms of Dune, that continue on from um, Chapter House Dune, the one that Frank Herbert. And then because I remember somebody had asked or something, though, the last books or something, did Frank Herbert actually write? And I thought they meant Heretics and Chapter House,
Hmm.
but I think they were probably referring to the final those 2, which I didn't know existed actually until I was looking. So that means 17 that Brian Herbert and Kevin J. Anderson have done, and then there's 4 novellas that have been put out for uh, fans of Dune. That's the 4 novellas, and then there's 8 short stories out in Tales of Dune. So that's 19 books that they've done. So if you add on the 6, no, wait a minute, am I right here? Yeah, 15, 16, 17. Well, yeah, but maybe not novels, but okay, yeah. So that's 25. Is that right? Yeah, that's 25 books.
Mm.
And then I'm not sure what, if they're counting things like Road to Dune. Then you've got the Encyclopedia Dune, which sort of fits in with some of this stuff, and you got I that he did, and as well as the Songs of Muad'Dib, a collection of poetry. So there's four other ones there.
Mm.
Anyway, um, now I put everybody to sleep. But yeah, so I'm actually I'm gonna continue reading this, and it looks like Aaron finished it last night.
Mm.
Um, I won't be finish it till sometime later in the week, midweek, I guess. and then I will be going on, I think, this month with Dune Messiah, and then continue on. And I am going to go to the Brian Herbert stuff. I'm going to be I'm going to probably read the two that are Dune 7 first before I go back to the others. Just
Mm.
to figure I might as well. But anyway, that's enough of Dune. The other book that I read, finished, and this is a buddy read with Ariane Fowler, Lost Illusions by Honor de Balzac. It's quite a big one. It's 600 pages with the notes. This is a new translation, and it's part of his Comedy Humane. And there's a good introduction in here, and the notes are pretty good. In the introduction, he talks about, well, there's about 90 some novels and short stories. I'm not sure actually how many novels there are to the series, and it was never completed because he died. He died before it was completed. I don't think he would have been ever able to complete it anyway. But the introduction says there's over 2,000 characters in the Comedy Humane.
Damn.
That's kind of hard to keep track of. But the notes in here talk about all the characters that show up, like, that, oh, he talks about this character or he expands the story in another book. This one is set in the early 1820s, so literally 200 years ago. And it's about a young, he's 20, 1920, poet or wannabe poet. He's writing poetry. He's in a provincial town. He gets sort of the patronage of one of the aristocrat of the provincial area. He falls in love with her. She's like 40. He's 20. They eventually run off to Paris together. But she dumps him because her cousin says, "Oh, he's provincial. He's common. Get rid of him." Um,
What's wrong with a
but
toy boy?
yeah, but he gets work. He becomes working as a journalist. He meets other writers, and it gets really detailed. It's like all this maneuvering and backstabbing and backpatting of to get books published, and who writes for what, and all the how they make money. Like they'll get a whole bunch of tickets for the opera or the theater. They wind up selling some of those tickets or all the tickets to make some extra money. They get payments from actresses in money and other favors, to write good things about them or write something bad about another actress or actor.
So really
And
modern days then.
yeah,
Tell
it,
person chills.
but you almost need a spreadsheet to keep track of what they're doing, because he'll work for one paper and praise a book, and then he'll write another article just damning the book, just ripping it to shreds, and then write another third one under his own name, say, okay, well, let's have some common sense here, you know and just create controversy. uh, but it was an interesting period because it was after, obviously, Waterloo. It was also after the year without summer, like several years, where where there was the volcano erupted in Asia, and it basically in 1816, 17, there was no summer in Europe. It just the ash sort of stopped everything, and that's also at the time where Byron, Shelley, and Mary Shelley were out in, oh, where were they? In Europe there. I forget the place that they were in that villa, and she wrote or started to write Frankenstein, but this is 1820, and it's just so much. And then like there was basically a constitutional monarchy that was France. Newspapers were growing, all sorts of things like the 1820. I think it was the early 1820s that Champollion uh, translated hieroglyphs. Uh, Even I think Babbage during the 1820s was starting with his differential or whatever machine. Uh, Photography was really starting. Paleontology started. John Clare was publishing his poetry in England. The Antarctica was first sort of found and started to be explored. All sorts of stuff was happening, and that's 200 years ago. And that's not in this, but it's all that kind of thing that's there in the background to this story, which is kind of neat, um, because it was 1820s, and it's also similar to, it's the same period as Les Miserables, covers a little bit of it. This is only like 1820 to 1823, maybe at the most,
Okay.
probably 22. But Les Miserables covers a longer period, but so does uh, Count of Monte Cristo. So
Mhm.
I just love these. And Balzac, like I say, he goes in because he was there. He was doing these things, and it's just, you just sort of roll your eyes. You're going, how do these people get away with it? And then the public is believing this stuff. You create these controversies, and then but if you follow a line, oh, you get pillared by your colleagues. You just get hammered.
Oh, look, it's the sort of stuff that people believe even nowadays.
Yeah.
You still got people that believe the Earth is flat, and like we debunked that centuries ago.
Yeah. Yeah, well, that's the thing. They would do something like that. They would have somebody writing an article saying it was, and then the same person would write an article debunking it, and then saying that what they should be killed or something like that. And then he writes another article saying, "Oh, well, let's be a little bit moderate here. Let's look at things a little better." And it just, but he writes like, if you like long paragraphs, especially in this one, like he's got 4 or 5 page paragraphs of debts. It's like it's really, it's 600 pages with the notes and the introduction. But like, look, that's the text almost on every page.
Damn, it's like a textbook.
It just continuous all the way through. But I love it. It's different than Hugo, but and Dumas, but it's still damn good. It's just like, you just go through this and you're just going, really? It's like I say, they write these things. They get all these tickets, and then they sell the tickets to somebody else, who they have a claque, what's called, um, where they would go in and they would either cheer an actor or actress to make them look better, but they need to get paid for that. So, they'd pay people to do that, or they'd boo them. And then he would buy the tickets from them, and then he would resell the tickets. But then at the same time, the theater hasn't reserved those tickets. That if it's, then you get people coming in, like, doubling up on seats and everything like that. It's just bizarre, but every little thing, like, there's some money to be made, and it's just everybody's doing that. And then you get to the provincial stuff too, and it's just on a smaller scale. Like, you got a lawyer that is basically, he talks about, nickeling and diming. It's like, oh, I've had to go and pick up a letter here. Oh, that's £2, or 2 francs, or whatever. And then they just add up all these little charges. So when the guy owes 3,000 francs or something like that, it's all of a sudden 12,000 by the time it's done. Anyway, I
Now we
just,
know why we don't trust lawyers or bankers.
yeah. Well, that's the thing. Yeah, they talk about the bankers, where you get, people would write a check, and or they'd write several checks, but one would be for a month from now, 4 months from now, and then 6 months from now. But then they'd go to somebody else who would give them, who would cash it all and give it to them, but not all of it. Like, they would discount it. So if it was 3,000 francs, they may get 2,000 or 2,500.
Yes, it's like modern day cash converters, or is it check centers?
It's that's what I mean. It's like, it's 200 years ago, but there's so many things that are very similar, and it's like, they're getting letters from people. It's like, all I'm thinking of is like Murdoch, in the newspapers here, and what's his name, that they were listening to the phone conversations. It's like, if they had phones, they would have been doing that there. But now
Oh,
they're
Piers Morgan.
yeah, yeah, Morgan, Piers Morgan, and it's just like, but instead they would get letters or get these tattletales to and then start writing this stuff about it. And it's like, oh, do you want to deny it? But then once the person denies it, it creates more of a controversy. Yeah, anyway,
People love controversy. It's very entertaining sometimes to watch.
yeah, and like even 200 years ago, and that's the neat thing is reading this now. It like wasn't written 200 years ago. It was written 180, well, 85, 90 years ago, 80 years ago, I guess. But it's set damn spank on 200 years ago, which is kind of cool, to be reading something like that. So anyway, how long have I gone on about that? You might seem to think I like it. I do. It's the third time I've read it. The translation, because I wanted to read the newer translation. I read it last year in the Penguin translation, and I enjoyed it again then. And I thought this, but in the language, I don't notice anything spectacular different. I don't have my other one to compare it to. The only thing I do notice is that because he's an American, there's Americanisms in here,
Oh, okay.
which is kind of strange. Or even when he talks about the first floor or second floor, because he talks about the second floor, he doesn't mean the second floor in the European sense, which is the third floor in everywhere and in North America. So and things like that, but he doesn't explain that. The notes are good, but because they'll refer to a politician, a writer who's everybody forgotten, and then he gives a little bit of background to who that person is, or the reference to the quotation that everybody would have known at the time. But yeah, just the I don't know why the Americanism seemed a bit grating for this, because it's French, so it shouldn't matter because he's translating it. But if you're translating it, it would seem, in my mind, it seems better to be translated into Englishisms, or
Mm.
because it's still Europe. I don't know.
I get that with fantasies. There was this fantasy called Jaded. It's also werewolves, and one of the characters really, literally uses the word hinky, and I'm like, you're not even set on Earth, let alone like in anything Earth related. Why are you using the term hinky?
A Scooby Doo fan,
I know.
or well, no, it's Jinkies.
They use jinkies. But it was just because obviously like, one of the characters was doing something where he goes, yeah, he's been acting awfully hinky, and you're like, what?
Well, he
It's like,
did use the term nickel and dime, and that's really sort of jumped out, which is understandable. You don't need to explain that saying,
yeah.
nickel and diming. You don't need to explain it, so it makes sense to use it, but it is a bit jarring at times. Um, so if anybody is interested in this, I would say if you want the end notes and the introduction, then this is great. But I would say from memory, without comparing everything, the Penguin translation is just as good and probably a lot cheaper than this. So, and then there's the sequel, which I'll be reading. I was going to read it right away, but there's too many other things, I think, and I'm behind. And I'll probably read that in October, and then go back and start reading some more Balzac's. He broke the comedy humane up into sections, and there's sort of provincial life and Parisian life, and they're sort of interconnected. So I think
Okay.
I'm gonna start reading some of those, because um, the one that everybody seems to know is Pierre Goriot, or Old Goriot, is the one. And I read that was one of the first ones I read, maybe the second or third, and I didn't think of that much of it. But a character that appears at the end of this book, and other characters in the book, first appear in there.
Oh, okay.
So So anyway, well, it's your turn to go on and on about a book that you've read that you like now.
So the only one I've been watching is came because I rewatched the series for this strain as well. Because the first one's obviously it's the book's narrated by Ron Perlman, which I
Oh,
did not notice the first time I read that book. Because the first time I think it's just my third time reading it. So the first time I just read them, and then the last two times I've been using the audiobooks. It's a shame he didn't do 2 and 3. He only did the first one because originally he was supposed to star in the series as well. No, he didn't come in. We got Kevin Durand instead, but he was good though. I like Kevin Durand.
I don't know who Kevin Durand is, but I know Ron Perlman. So.
Hellboy.
Well, I see. I've not seen that, to be honest. I
Oh, he's
I,
great.
I
Hellboy.
probably think more of him as the little messed up monk from um, Name of the Rose.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he was yeah, a intellectually challenged. That's we'll put it that way. Monk.
I like Ron Perlman in most things I've seen him. Even really, really bad films, I'm like, I still enjoyed that. It was like, what was it? In the Name of the King, a Jason Statham film. He's in that as well. And it's like, it's so cheesy, but I loved it. I thought it was so funny.
Yeah, I'm trying to. I can't think of other stuff that he's been in that I've seen, and I know I've seen him. He always pops up as, oh,
He's usually sort of like the sidekick to the main actor.
yeah, no, I was what was I? Oh, he was in Dexter. He was in Dexter for a while, like the series Dexter.
All
He
right.
played sheriff who was actually better. He had a higher body count than Dexter did. Oh, that was no, but that was the that no, that wasn't the original series. That was the sequel series they did. Yeah, okay, but it's still Dexter. But he plays, he plays a sheriff in the thing, and yeah, that's the last thing I've seen him in actually, and that's only a few years ago.
I was watching a lot of videos on YouTube, and it was like kind of like going on about the series. And there was one I just sort of kind of was listening to it. I'm like, did you seriously watch the series? Because they went on about one of the characters, Gus, robbing one of the other characters, and I'm like, that wasn't him. That was his brother. And then they went on about somebody that gets narrated at the start and the end of the book, the end of the episode, as a bad guy. I'm like, that was the good guy. That was Citrakian. And I was just like, you did watch the show, right?
Ah, maybe he's got COVID like I do, so it
Oh,
gets
they
things
would
mixed up.
have to.
Can't remember.
I was just like, oh god. I was just like,
He was in Enemy at the Gates, where he's entertaining for the brief time he's on. Enemy at the Gates. I
that's a
don't.
World War
I
Two
haven't
film, isn't
seen
it?
that. Sorry.
Is that not a World War Two film?
Yeah, I think it is. Yeah, I don't know if I've seen that.
Mm. I don't tend to watch too many films unless it's like ancient wars.
Well, I always it was something that I always watched. Like if I was when I used to have TV and I was channel surfing at some point, and there'd be a western on, I'd stop and watch. If it was a black and white Second World War film, I'd stop and watch. Those were the two things that I'd seen too many of. Oh yeah, yeah, okay, it's Stalingrad. Yeah, I don't know if that's one of the ones that Aaron gave me a stick with a few things on, but there was I tried watching a couple of them, and it's just the jerky moving of a camera and stuff like that. It was just driving me nuts. I couldn't continue watching it, and it's like I could be missing a really good movie, but when people do this jerky camera movement, I just can't stand it.
Uh,
And I think it
a
must
little
have
too
to do with my
MTV for
eye.
you.
Sorry.
A little too MTV for you, was it?
Well, yeah, and it might have something to do with my eye because when I don't like have reading the Kindle or looking at the screen that much, and the flickering does because of my um well, it's called post-herpetic neuralgia or whatever it is from the shingles that I've had.
Mm.
So, and that could be it because it's not comfortable. Oh, talk about watching things. I did see because yesterday, and because I haven't been feeling that well. So when I don't feel that well, and but if I not tired enough to rest or sleep, I'm sort of going to be sitting here twiddling my thumbs. So I watch either YouTube videos or I watch TV shows on Prime and that. And I still got Prime up. I don't know to when, but I noticed The Boys. The fourth season of The Boys is out. So
Yeah, I think Jeffrey D. Morgan's in this season.
who's that?
He was the one that played Negan, in The Walking Dead.
Oh, no,
He's a
I
great actor. Again, it's just like, oh, it's like he seems like such a nice person off camera, but he plays such evil characters on screen and does it so well.
Oh, I think I might know who you mean. There is one guy that's on there that I've seen before that is new to me. Um, but I don't know his name, but I do recognize him um, in places. But yeah, so I've watched the three episodes I think that are out for that, and they've been entertaining. Um,
I think The Boys is the closest you're going to get to Lord of the Rings as well, because it's Carl Urban that's in that. Kind of plays one of the main characters, and he played Éomer in Lord of the Rings. I'm like, yay! He's a good guy in Lord of the Rings, though.
oh, Aaron says the film put on Sickles. Come and see it. It's a great film, but it's not something you'd watch for pleasure, unlike Enemy. Yeah, it's just there was something about the camera movements or something like that that I couldn't handle. Um, and I think it's because of my eye.
Oh, the random film Amy and I watched today was we got bored, so we just sat and watched St. Trinians because it was on Amazon Prime.
Okay, now
I
do
forgot how much fun St. Trinians is. And
do
it
do
wasn't
I
the
dare
original song.
do I dare ask that you watch the Alec Guinness version?
No, no, these are the new ones.
Oh, da 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 da
The
da.
new ones are funny. They're just chaos. Chaos
Yeah,
on screen. It's so much
but
fun.
isn't that with what's his name on there?
Uh, who?
I can't stand.
The main actors in that, there's Rupert Everett, Colin Firth, and Russell Brand. That's the main three male actors.
Yeah, if they would dissolve and get rid of Russell Brand, then I might watch those.
I know his way with the kids is quite fun. I love the
I
fact
love
you can outsmart them. It's the
I
twins
love
in particular. I love the twins.
I love the original one. So the Saint Trinian's one
Mm.
with Alec Guinness. Those are hilarious. And I think also too, who is the Spiv in the original one? Is that what's his name from the newer Doctor? I can't remember now. See,
I've never
if I
watched
had a good memory, I'd be dangerous.
Yeah, I've never watched the originals, but it's weird when you watch it back though, because it's actually quite an old film, and you see some of the actors in there came before they really took off, and you're just like, damn.
Well, I do like Colin Firth, and who else did you say it was?
Rupert Everett, he's the one that plays
Rupert.
the two characters, the brother and sister. He's quite good at that.
Oh yeah, it's George Cole. I was thinking, yeah, it's George Cole. It's Flash Harry.
Also, he plays the Russell Brand character.
I guess so, but
Yeah.
but
Well,
how
just I only know him as Flash. I didn't realize Flash even had like a full name because I don't think they actually give him one in the new films.
how did they do it? Like, is it set modern times?
Yeah, it's
So
completely modern.
see the way the Flash Harry's character was because it's at the time of English um after the war, and there wasn't enough stuff, and he's a spiv. He has black market stuff,
Okay.
and that's where he's selling stuff to the kids.
Well,
Uh,
this one, it's he's got the kids basically creating all the products. He's basically their fence.
oh, okay, so that's how, because I was trying to figure out, because if they just had him the same character, that doesn't quite work, because
Yeah, it's
everything
more
that
like
they
the
would
opposite.
yeah,
So it's like
because
the
everything that
kids
they
are
would
making
want,
alcohol.
yeah, they could just go down to the corner store and get it, or the corner
Mhm.
shop.
Yeah, but these kids are basically like feral, and they create like them. The twins in particular, making the vodka mix, and it almost kills one of the Russians. It was that strong. And then they
Uh, I,
steal the painting from the museum, which is great.
I might, like, it's just Russell Brand though is the thing that just really turns me off with
Mm.
anything. Like when I see him on like video anything, I just I want to get rid of it. Oh, Alistair Sim, yes, yeah. I pictured Alistair Sim, but for some reason Alec Guinness came to mind for the name.
Mm.
Yes,
So I take it Alec Guinness isn't in the
yeah.
Centurions films then.
Sorry.
I take it Alec Guinness isn't in the films then.
No, it's Alistair Sim. He's dressed up as the female
Two
teacher.
Britons.
Yeah. But yeah, no, it's just I pictured him, but the name that came. See, this is the problem with my COVID brain. I'll
Mm.
picture it and it'll seem, oh yeah, that's Alec Guinness. No, it's not. I don't know how I made those connections in my brain because I've seen the movie so many times and I've seen Alistair Sim and I know who Alec Guinness is
Mm.
and I know they're different different actors,
I
but
know. I only know Alec Guinness as Obi-Wan Kenobi.
somehow,
It's the only film I've seen him in that I can remember anyway. I'd probably have to go through his catalogue and find out.
oh, like he was a
Mm.
fabulous actor, and Alistair Sim too. Hey, Randy, novelization for the first modern.
Oh, it's perfect for Garb August.
I wonder if they're. I don't know. I never looked. I wonder if they were. I bet they were based. The original was based on a novel. It must have been based on a novel.
I think it was a comic strip.
Oh,
I'm sure it was
okay.
like a cartoony comic strip type thing. I'm sure that's what it was from.
Oh, okay.
I remember
Because
seeing that, so maybe they based that on the film. It's just it could be the other way around. Oh, you've only got one of the twins, Randy.
but yeah, I like a lot of that stuff was like there was the, oh, what's the, is it the author's name Gordon, and there was like the Doctors series. Um, oh, it was like Doctor in the House, Doctor on Call. Like these were these, they're young doctors at a London hospital, and is it Richard Gordon is the author? And they made a whole bunch of films of them as well. And Randy says his other daughter is in Washington D.C. right now. But yeah, they made, they made these comedy films in the 50s, and one of the biggest scenes is something that's uh he comes in, he listens to the breathing of a girl, and he's doing this and he says, big breasts, and she goes, yes, and I'm only 16. It was like we would not get away with that today.
Oh no. Which is a shame because a lot of the old comedy it's meant to be crass and that's what makes it so funny.
Because he's like this going, like he's so shocked, because he's like, yeah. And
It was like
that was the point of it.
it was like that. You know how what was it last week? You sent me that clip from Hot Fuzz about how that's
Oh
what
yeah.
the neighbors saw. That's obviously one of my favorite films. Even those films wouldn't get made anymore. You're just like, oh, they're just so funny though.
Well, this is the thing. Like going back to that, like just explain to everybody. It's. I guess they're supposed to be in the West Country,
Mhm.
and these two cops are called in. At least the scene. This is. Correct me if I'm wrong, but two cops are called in, and you got this farmer explaining to, well, three cops actually, of
Mhm.
what's going on, and he's going, all of the staff, they get together. Just the head. I'm not the doing the. And then everybody's going, and then he turns to the one cop for the translation. It's a little better. It's a little clearer. Then he's got to go to the next one to get another translation to
I love
make
it.
sense.
But you know that first guy, the one that you can't understand a word of, he's in
Yeah.
the Strain. Okay, that's David Bradley. He's in the Strain series.
Oh, okay.
He's the one
I
that plays
know him. I've
Loki.
seen him.
Alright.
He's a good actor.
Yeah. I loved him in, Game of Thrones as well.
But they call this the West Country accent here in England. And I when I looked it up at other times, I can I when somebody's saying this is the West Country accent, I can understand that. I don't understand him. When I lived in Bedford, I'd be in the pub and there'd be two people doing the exact same thing back and forth, and they're apparently understanding each other. And that's in Bedford. And I've got a neighbor somewhere out here in back that does the exact same thing. And I'm going, this is not West. I can't believe these were West Country people in all these three places. I think this is just, and it reminds me also of. I have to look at the clip. Um, there was three series, I think, or two of them. There's the Fall and Rise of Reginald Perrin, and it's about this guy who gets sort of tired of office life. He pretends to commit suicide anyway, but then at some point comes back with being rich, and there's a health club thing, and he's got a Welsh um, cook, and it's he talks the same way, and so I just go, that's I just don't get it. Ah, okay, yeah. Saint Trinian's was based on a series of comic drawings by Ronald Surley. Oh, I know the name. I've got a book of some of them put out by Penguin, but I didn't think there was a collection of all the Saint Trinian's drawings. Oh, that'd be kind of cool.
Mm.
Ronald Surley. I know that name from somewhere, or maybe it's the surname that I'm thinking of.
I recognise his surname, but I don't know if it's because of him. I just
Yeah.
remember I'd seen some of the cartoons on St. Trinity's, but I couldn't remember if it like the films came first and they did comics, just to have a bit of fun, or if the comics came first. Because sometimes they do it in weird orders.
Well, they still do that because there was Claire in the Community, which was the comic strip,
Hmm.
and then there was the radio program. Did they ever make a TV show? I'm not sure if they ever did.
I have no idea.
By the way, that was a brilliant thing that was
Given
done.
the fact that Hollywood keep running out of ideas, they probably will eventually.
But but yeah, I bet I could just envision some of the comic strips. Oh God, that would be like they the newspaper would get canceled today.
Mm.
Which would but they got to be funny. I don't think I've ever seen any of them. Well, the Adams Family was the same way. Okay, so yeah,
I love those films. Well, the ones from the 90s anyway.
yeah. See, I only know the original series, the TV series.
It's because you can only see in black and white.
Well, that's the thing. And then there was at the same time there was the Munsters, and it was black and white as well. But the one Herman Munster was green. It was supposed to be green, but he's grayish. And then they made a film, I think, in color. I said, no, that doesn't work.
No.
It does not work. It's the same thing. I remember an old film where somebody's talking about, uh, I think, the color of a car, and he goes, "Oh, it's the same color. It's blue, the color of your suit." And I go, "That's not a blue suit. That's black suit." you know, I just cannot. I
It was like
cannot.
when they did that with Romero's film, the first night, was it Night of the Living Dead? Because it was black and white
Yeah,
originally, and for some reason they remastered it and colored it, and you're like, oh, it's not the same.
yeah. Oh,
And then they
colorization
remade
is
it
an
all together, and then
abomination.
it was just
Yeah, no, that'd be kind of cool to see. Yeah, Aaron, I'd like to see that.
no tease him with videos. Show him.
But yeah, there's all sorts. It's like there was I won't say, but there was a bookstore that I used to know here in England that they bought locally a whole bunch of books, like a huge library of books, but also that came with that was a lot of pornography, but it was sort of local pornography back in the 50s, 60s, and maybe early 70s that you had sort of the local housewives and everything, all these people doing these things, and there was all this photography. But along with that were these 1960s sort of titillating magazines where they might you might see something through a very sheer gown or something, but there was no, full nudity or anything like that in it. And they were hilarious. Like I would love to have written these things because like there'd be it's almost like the page three girls in the in the Sun kind of thing. And it's like, oh, Marianne wants to be this, and it's just they create this whole thing of what this person's like. And it was just hilarious to read these things. But
Oh,
again,
my favorite was about the Sun. Was there was a comedian that joked about how the page three girl should become like a like almost like military conscription, so that every female in the country has to do it at least once. I'm like, oh no. There's certain girls who's like, do you really want some 90-year-old grandmother on there?
well, they in Canada they had, well, the Toronto Sun, but they weren't topless. They were just in bikinis. So the topless part would not have flown in Canada.
That's because you're too polite.
I don't think I. Let me see, because when I moved here in 2005, four, I think they were still doing it, but I never bought the Sun. I might have saw somebody else, but I don't remember ever seeing it. So they may have got rid of them by then.
Possibly, because I don't know if they still do it now or if they brought it back.
Because I just remember like the only time when there was a time where you could get like DVDs or CDs with newspapers, like they come with them, like on the weekends they'd be packaged inside with it, but otherwise you'd buy the newspaper and you get it handed over at the counter. So whenever the Sun or the Daily Mail did this, I would take the newspaper up, put it down on the counter, and say, I pay for it, and then take the DVD, but I never took the newspaper. And one place got angry at this, so and then there was somebody else that was behind me that had the newspaper. I said, well, here, don't buy it. This is yours. Oh, they didn't like that either. Um, I said they colorized the longest. Oh, yeah, colorization is an abomination. It just doesn't work. The reason is most times when
Well, they're
there was
filmed with the intention of being in black and white. So when you put the color in, it doesn't look right. It's like, could you imagine if they put Psycho into color, considering the fact that that wasn't blood they used, or even fake blood? I'm pretty sure it was like chocolate sauce or something they used.
Well, that's what I was going to say. That if they wanted it in color, they could have done it in color. And then what they do is, because it's black and white, they would use different shades and different colors and shadows to do the things that they want. And if they did it in color, then it would be different. They
Mhm.
they would not have chose those colors, because people say, oh, they've done the research and she was wearing this color of gown. So like, well, no, that's not why they chose that color of the gown. They
No.
chose the color of the ground because it gave the right shade or whatever, for this. Um, and that's all wrong. It's all wrong, and it gets rid of the shadow effects, like the shadows and the lighting. It just really screws it up. So yeah, no to can't. The one thing I would say, cancel colorization.
Mhm. Just reshoot it if that's what you really wanted to do. I mean, they did that with Night of the Living Dead anyway. I mean, they redid the whole thing almost shot for shot like they did with
Yeah,
Psycho. I'm like, well, what was the point in colorizing the original then?
and the woman that was on the second one, Pat Talman, winds up on another fabulous TV show later called Babylon 5.
The fake Star Wars.
One, I got one. I got one of them mentioned.
Yeah. Shall we talk about He Who Should Not Be Named?
Hey, you brought it up. I
Yeah.
just added to it. And then we were talking about westerns, so I'm going to talk about, well, we don't like John Wayne, but in one of the last series of Republic pictures called the Mosquitoes, Three Mosquitoes, that were 20 or some films was Louise Brooks's last film. So I got Louise Brooks now in. That makes sense, because we were talking about that. I'm not pulling it over there. It's
Nope.
connections here. These are connections. Are there any color films that you would think would look good in black and white?
Pretty much any horror film, probably.
Yeah. Well, you see, the problem with color films, like the older ones, and even stuff that was done in the 70s, and probably not so much maybe in the 80s, but they fade. They
Mm.
fade. Like you get old colored stuff. That's why if you ever saw on TV, everything was sort of like a beige red, not beige, but
They
reddish
use
rust
sepia
color.
for everything now.
Hmm?
It's like a sepia sort of tone now.
Yeah, and it's just because it's faded, and it's hard to get it back to the original, like for the restoration. Black and white doesn't fade like that, But if it was on nitrate, then it could just disintegrate. But you know, and that looks different too when they change it from nitrate film to safety film. The brilliance and the brightness, apparently, because I don't think I've ever seen a nitrate film actually projected, so I don't know the difference. But I understand that there is a difference, and that's the thing. There is a difference, but black and white. Oh, here's one that was shot in black and white, but they released it in color. Sorry, shot in color, but they released it in black and white. It was one of the um, Coen brothers films, and I can't think of the name of it. But that wasn't done too long ago. But when I saw actually print or parts of it in the original color, it had completely faded, and that wasn't that long ago.
So they obviously didn't protect it very well.
It's a detective type one. It's like a film noir. Oh, I can't think of the
Mm.
name of it. But yeah, so they're like yeah, but I can't. Yeah, I don't know. I love black and white. That's the thing. It's just and I know that they have done some from the 30s that they've colorized. Barton Fink, that's it. Yeah, Barton Fink.
Which the top
Um,
of my list was coming up with Fargo, and I'm like, no, I'm pretty sure Fargo was in color.
yeah, no, Barton Fink. Yeah, they've done some that were done in the 30s, and they look like they're like three color Technicolor. There's Technicolor, which is there's five color Technicolor, but then
Mhm.
originally they had three colors, so it was originally three colors, and now they've colorized some black and white ones into almost like three color Technicolor, and it has that kind of pastel palette to it, and they look okay, but it's not right.
Yeah.
It's not right
It's almost
because
strange when you can sense it. You're like, no, it's not. Don't.
oh, you really see it where they're talking, and all of a sudden their teeth sort of shimmer grayish, or their tongue is gray.
Like a bad TikTok filler.
Yeah, it just yeah. But I'm sure they're getting better at doing that.
Hmm.
Uh, like I remember one of the first ones when they were starting to do it. I think it was what's his name, Ted Turner, who bought the um, I guess it was a Universal library that he bought. Was it Universal? Yeah, I guess so. But anyway, the big library of films, and started Turner Network, and married for a while Jane Fonda. Um, he was colorizing stuff, and I remember this was a time when Jimmy Stewart was still alive, and they told him that they had colorized "It's a Wonderful Life," and
Ooh.
he just went like, "Oh, why?"
It's like when they remake movies and you're just like, why that one? It was
Yeah,
like when it was like when people first heard about Willow, everybody's like, don't touch Willow. And then they made a TV series which they destroyed anyway. It was like when they joked about making some of the older films and like, no, don't touch them. Just leave them as they are.
there is. what is it? Roman Holiday? Is it Roman Holiday? Oh, I always get this wrong. It's with Gregory Peck and Audrey Hepburn. Um, and it's a great film. Um, I think it's Roman Holiday, yeah. But anyway, and Eddie Albert was in it too. And I remember a interview with Eddie Albert, and they were talking about the film, and then they were saying that, oh, they're going to remake, Roman Holiday, and he just went, why? Like, it's just, yeah, he just sort of freaked out, and he just couldn't believe, like,
It's
why
like,
do
who's
you
it going
bother
to do a
doing
better job than Audrey Hepburn? It'd be like
that?
remaking My Fair Lady, like properly, and you're just like, oh God, no.
Yeah, that's uh, it's got Sherlock Holmes on there too. The Jeremy Brett, but that's not his voice when he sings though. In my, is
Oh,
it My Fair Lady? Yeah, I think it's My Fair Lady.
I quite like that one. I had to do that as a school play. That was fun.
Well, there was a good '80s one that was done. Well, it was because that was based on Pygmalion by the playwright. I can't think of his
Shakespeare.
name. Sorry,
Was it Shakespeare?
no, not Shakespeare. No, long after Shakespeare.
Oh,
Anyway, um, Pygmalion was done in the early '80s as a stage thing with Peter O'Toole and George Bernard Shaw. Yes, thank you. Um, Peter O'Toole and Margot Kidder, Lois Lane from the original Superman film.
the black and
And,
white ones.
sorry,
The black and white ones.
no, 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 the 1978 original sort of blockbuster one
Oh,
with
with Christopher
Christopher
Reeve.
Reeve. Yeah,
Oh, right, okay. I
and
keep forgetting they're that
it was
old.
on stage, and they filmed it from the stage. It's wonderful. It's wonderful because Peter O'Toole is just, his flamboyant self. But that is a good. But that's not really a remake of My Fair Lady because My Fair Lady is sort of it is Pygmalion basically.
Oh, I love winding Steve up about Peter O'Toole because my favourite film of his is obviously High Spirits, which is one of the stupidest films ever made, but I love it.
Oh, I just love watching these. Every so often, I get on these watching clips because a lot of them I've seen originally, like on Johnny Carson, David Letterman, or whatever. That you get Peter O'Toole on, then you get Richard Harris on, and they each talk about their stories, and it's hilarious. But I remember watching something about uh, well, I think it was Peter O'Toole talking when they were filming um, Lawrence of Arabia, and
Yeah.
there's the scene that they're coming into Aqaba down on the camels and everything, and like Peter O'Toole says, well, no, I guess it's Omar Sharif says, well, he's going to tie himself to the camel, have him tied to the camel, which it's like he can't get off, but he's afraid he's going to fall off. And then Peter says, well, I'm going to be pissed. And then and Omar Sharif says, well, he's going to be pissed as well. So you watch that, and every time I watch that now, they're pissed, going down this thing, just bad out of hell. They're just drunk, which is hilarious. Remember a few years ago they were going to remake The Wild Bunch, and I'm glad it never happened. I can just imagine how bad it would be. Yeah, that's the thing. Sometimes there are remakes that work. It's rare. The
No,
one
the
thing,
most common one is the True Grit. Everybody seems to like the True Grit remake.
yeah, there's good parts and not
Mhm.
so good parts, but there's good parts and not so good parts in the original one too. But they
Mhm.
just happen to be different parts.
I think just what a lot of people were happy that they didn't, pull it apart. They didn't try to modernize it.
Yeah,
They pretty much kept it the way it was supposed to be.
yeah. The only problem was that, or a big problem was that they had the eye patch on the wrong side for
Oh, for
Bridges.
Jeff Bridges.
And the thing was too that he wouldn't have been able to shoot the way he did with the iPad, like the way he was shooting with that arm, I think. But one that I think that was a really good remake, I love the original, is Invasion of the Body Snatchers.
The
And
one
the
with
original,
Donald Sutherland.
yeah, that's the remake in the 70s,
Oh,
and
okay.
that was well done.
Mhm,
It was different, but the original was different from the book as well. They're both different from the book.
mhm.
But the original one is so much, and even the book, it's written with the Cold War, with the commies and everything, the fear of communism and everything like that. And that's what a lot of those are, and they're imbued with it. So they're of their time, but they're great for that, I think. Um, and I guess a lot of people like The Thing, the John Carpenter's 80s The Thing.
Yeah.
I'm a bit it's good, yeah, but I still like the original one just
I
a
think
bit
the one
better.
thing that made me laugh about that was the fact that basically it's like you get spoilt right at the beginning of it, with the Norwegian guy literally telling them not to trust the dog, and I'm like, if only would they spoke Norwegian.
Oh yeah, no, I already read that one. Yeah, The Wild Bunch.
I think my favourite one for behind the scenes was, the first Transformers film. They've got the scene when the soldiers are running from the one of the Transformers, and there's like explosions, and all Michael Bay told them was, "Don't trip, because once the explosions start, we can't stop them." So the actors have basically had to run and pray they didn't get blown up. I was like, oh, it could have been so fun.
I love it when you always assume that I've seen this stuff.
Oh, come on, Transformers is brilliant.
No, but it's funny because you go, oh, and it's like, no, I don't. Assume if it's after a certain time, like after 1980, that I haven't seen it.
I'm just gonna assume that anything you can switch your brain off you haven't watched. You prefer more challenging stuff. I like
But
switching my brain off.
oh no, I love stuff like that too. And I did something one time. I was listing sort of favorite films of each sort of decade.
Mm.
And I thought, oh, that's going to be really hard for the 70s and 80s and 90s. It wasn't. There were a lot. Like a few times, it was a bit difficult to figure out which was sort of the best film of that decade, because there were a lot of good ones when I think of it, like especially 90s. I don't know if I can do 2000s and
Well, it doesn't
2010s.
exactly help that a lot of films that are considered good now weren't popular at the time they came out.
Hmm.
It was like, obviously, it's like I grew up watching Labyrinth, Time Bandits, Willow. I'm pretty sure all three of them flopped when they came out in the 80s, but they're all really popular now.
Yeah, I liked Time Bandits at the time. I thought that was fun. Willow, I'd not seen. What was the other one you mentioned? Sorry, that's all.
Labyrinth.
Labyrinth. Yeah,
Yeah.
never seen that. It's not something that I would have. I know it's big now. Yeah, I
Mm.
remember thinking, yeah, I enjoyed it, but
I loved it.
yeah. But for '90s, for me, there's two films of the '90s that really stand out for me. Is um, Train Spotting and Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas.
Stick with me, Jurassic Park. Quite fun watching lawyers get eaten.
Yeah, well, yeah. I don't know. That just didn't work for me. Oh, that's the other thing I was going to mention. Since we mentioned dinosaurs, I don't think I mentioned it. In the 1820s, or maybe even 1820, was the birth of paleontology as well.
Oh, it was when was it? Was it? It wasn't even a T Rex the first found, was it?
Oh, I think it was just bits and pieces. I think,
Mm.
and then it was sort of the birth of paleontology.
Yeah, because I remember when I went through my dinosaur phase as a kid, it was iguanodons were my favorite. Well, not, they weren't my favorite dinosaur, but it was when they went on about when they first found one of the horns. They thought it was on a nose, and it wasn't until they found a full skeleton they found out that technically it was its thumb. So there's all these little casts of iguanodons with for some reason having like a rhino horn, and like nope.
I all of a sudden when you said that, the picture that came into my mind was an iguanodon, but dressed with like a blonde wig, and I must have like Dawn, Dawn. And I go, why did I think? Why did that pop into my mind?
That could be your Garb August story for you to write for Ollie's next anthology.
But yeah, no, it's just. But it is. But it is strange. Like even the 70s, 60s is really for me. Um, is probably there's a lot of good movies, but the 60s was not a great time for movies for me
Mm.
because that was the time they started changing. And that's where a lot of stuff like the writing changed, like science fiction changed, and it took a while for it to work its way out because there was the new wave in film. Well, that actually started in the late 50s a little bit, but the same as new wave and everything else. Um but there are some fabulous 60s ones. Um like Ghost. There's two of my favorite Ghosts. I think they're both from the 60s. I don't like the book. Claire Bloom was in it. A house. It was a house that's haunted.
Oh, the
Hill.
original House on Haunted Hill.
No,
'Cause
no,
I know
that
they
not that
remade
one.
that one because I know the original one was. I think I'm pretty sure it was black and white as well. It's
Yes,
basically the old psych ward, and they've basically got to go through the night. It's like a birthday party.
yeah, that was with that was an amic. I think it was maybe an amicus picture with Vincent Price.
I had high hopes for that film, and then it turned out there wasn't a single bloody ghost. I was like, "Where's my ghosts?" And then the
Well, there
remake,
might have
so
been.
many ghosts.
There might have been if you remember the last scene.
Yeah,
It
I
could have been like
suppose.
that. But no, this is. I think it was the Haunting of Hill House. Was it?
Oh,
It's the one that's. Sorry.
The Shirley Jackson book.
Yeah, yeah. I didn't like the book. I finally got around to reading the book. I didn't like the book, but I loved the film. And then the other one is is with Deborah Carr. Why can't I think of the? It's based on the Turn of the Screw, The Innocents,
Yeah,
The
okay.
Innocents. I think those sort of bookend the '60s, and they're both black and white as well. And you see, they could have been done in color,
Mm.
but they weren't, and it would have ruined it in color. There was the
Instead, they remake
remake.
them. The
Hmm?
remaking of The Haunting, it was just like it was another one that was so tropey. I quite enjoyed it because you don't take it too seriously, but oh, it got shredded by the critics.
Yeah, I kind of enjoyed it, but it was too big in many
Mm,
ways. Like I liked the house, I liked some things, but it was too glitzy. I guess it was too Hollywoody. Maybe
mm.
that was it. But
Maybe
I
that's why
did
the
enjoy it.
series
It
did
was
so
it
well.
was. Hmm?
Or maybe that's why the series did so well. They toned it all down again.
I do want to watch that, and I think that was on Netflix. And I
Yeah,
do
it's
want
on
to watch
Netflix.
it.
I've
Yeah.
still got to watch I've only gotten halfway through the second series, and I haven't started any of the Fall of Usher one
Oh, they did
because
Fall of Usher too.
you did Fall of Usher as well. I can't remember what the second one was based on.
That was The Innocents. That
Oh, is
was
that what
Turn
that
of the
one's based
Screw.
on? Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm halfway through that one. I
There
love
there was a
it.
sort of remake of The Innocents. Um, Again, I can't think of the name of it, but it's with Australian actress that was married to Tom Cruise. Was she
Oh,
married?
the others.
The Others, yeah,
I
that
quite
one's
like that
good.
though. I
Yeah,
did
that
not see that twist coming when I first watched it, and then when you watch it a second time, you're like, ah, all the hints are there.
yeah. No, I thought that was good. I did enjoy that, and I thought that was a worthy sequel, I
Yeah.
guess, or remake. It was a worthy one. But no, I do want to watch the series, and I'm gonna have to buy them. Like I think it's the same as buying the Tear. I'm gonna have to buy the Tear as well on Blu-ray at some point because I'm never gonna see him any other way.
Mhm.
But
It's a
yeah,
shame that Netflix don't really sell out their stuff that much. They really should. Kinda like if they licensed it to other
oh yeah.
streaming services.
Well, that's you think they would because that's what happens in syndication. Like after the channels always kept it and then they sold it and it got a second run. Because yeah, why doesn't it show up on Prime or stuff like that? I think some do, but
Yeah.
not much. But yeah,
I know it was exclusive to Netflix, but I mean, it came out ages ago. It's the same with Stranger Things. I'm surprised they haven't like tried to get hold of it, for other people to watch.
yeah, um, yeah, because that was only on there. Um,
Or even if Amazon, you know how Amazon obviously have like you can pay like an extra like £1 or an extra £2, you get a whole new studio added on.
yeah,
Add
yeah,
Netflix to it, and you get a free trial of Netflix because
yeah.
that
Well,
Netflix has got some good stuff.
that's what I did with the. Um, well, I took a month of free Prime again that it was offered,
Mm,
and then I noticed that there was the Discovery, the last of the Star Trek's season of Discovery, Star Trek One, and so that was I don't I'm not sure if that was no, I think that was I took it for the month for it was yeah, it was only £2 or £3, so I thought, yeah, I'll do that. And
mm,
then I had to, because it overlapped a little bit with the second month of Prime, I had to pay for a second month of Prime, but my second month of Prime was only £3 something. So I think that's going to run out probably before I get to watch the rest of the boys probably.
mm.
And I don't think I want to put it back on. I'll just have to wait to get around to watching that. But yeah, but it's so expensive because like there's things that I want to watch. Like as much as it was panned, I want to watch um the Foundation series, that they did, the Isaac Asimov's Foundation series. I'm up for watching it,
Mm.
but I don't
That's
want to
on
pay.
Apple, is it not?
Yeah, it's Apple. Yeah.
Ah, that's Apple. Because Apple's got a few things I want to watch. Because they had the one with Jason Momoa had See. It's basically about all these people who are blind. Apart from I think it's twins that are born, they can see.
Oh,
So it's like the entire world has gone blind, and it's like it sounds weird, but it's supposed to be pretty good.
yeah. So yeah, it's a problem because I think now I'll get the third one in here. I think it's Apple that's supposed to be doing Waystation by Clifford Simak.
I'm sorry, who?
See, it comes in naturally, it's all natural. Um, but yeah, but the thing was, the last that I read, like they were saying, they were calling it a thriller. It's not a bloody thriller.
It
How do you
probably will
call?
be by the time they're done with it.
Yeah. Well, that was the thing when he watched. There was a Outer Limits episode that I guess he sold the story to, and he watched the episode because he watched Outer Limits. Apparently watched the episode and then saw his name at the end based on his story, and he didn't realize it, and he just thought they stole it because they changed it so much.
It's when they do it, and it's like it's much better. Like Stephen King when he went on about the movie The Mist. It ends very differently from how the book ends, and he was like, "Oh, I should have thought of that ending." I'm like, "Yeah, that was a dark ending."
Well, it's like Double Indemnity. I can't remember the author's name that did the book. It's a short book, but it people laud it. They say how great it is, and I love the film. I love the film with Barbara Stanwyck and Fred McMurray, um, Billy Wilder. Yeah, Billy Wilder was the director, but who wrote the screenplay was Raymond. Yeah, it was Raymond Chandler that wrote the screenplay, or they wrote it sort of together. And Raymond Chandler changed the ending like really a lot. Like the ending in the book was like, oh really?
Mm,
It was just such a lousy ending. Like I thought, and then I found out that the author sort of wrote to Raymond Chandler, says, "You did a better job than I did." It's just like it was a much better ending than I did, and it was right. But people argue about it all the time. They think it's the greatest book there ever was, and I thought, oh, God, it's a poorly written book.
that's what I'm looking forward to seeing if you guys actually watch Dune Part 2, and you see how Chani's story ends in the film versus the book, and I'm like, I don't like it.
Um, I'm not sure what's because how much is it now? Because I don't want to pay for it, but I'd have to
um,
have Prime as well. Then probably. Um,
I
how much
think
did
I
I?
ordered. Oh, did I? Oh, that's not even the right thing.
Because I don't know when it will come free again.
Hmm.
Where's my?
There we go.
Oh, there's Prime. I think it's cheaper to buy the Blu-ray than actual buying it.
Yeah, it's £14 to buy it on Amazon Prime.
Yeah, it was 20 some a
Oh
while ago.
no. Well, it says it's only a fiver to rent it. The
Okay.
one I was looking at was the one that's got the X-ray edition, so it's got like all the added bonuses and stuff. Whereas it's got like £5 if you want to just rent the film.
Not that's not too bad, I suppose,
Mhm. It's
because
no different, like I suppose, if you were getting it from an actual rental place.
ooh, they got the three-part miniseries free on there on Freevee. So I'll have to rewatch that.
That the sci-fi one.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah, it's on Freevee.
I don't have Freevee. I might have to go and get Freevee.
No, if you just go on to Prime, you don't have to pay for it. It's
Oh, is
free.
it part of Prime? I
No,
thought it was still
even if you
separate.
don't have Prime, if you don't have Prime, you can still watch Freevee.
Oh, okay. I didn't realize it was connected to Amazon in any way.
I don't think it is, but they have it on there. And when I don't have Amazon Prime anymore, I watch. If I do watch something, I'll watch it with Freevee. I thought I had to have Prime to have it, but I don't. It's got commercials, but Prime has commercials now anyway.
Yeah, I know. It's so annoying. The whole point of streaming was no ads. It was the
Yeah,
same thing with Netflix when they're now telling you can't share your login. I'm like, that was the whole point of Netflix was that you were supposed to share it. And like, no, everybody has to have their own one. I'm like, I don't think so.
that's why I've been stopped now. I can't watch it anymore. How
I
much is
technically share mines with my aunt, but that's because she has it through her house, kind of like through her TV. I have it through my laptop. So I just claim that I'm traveling.
It doesn't tell me the price. It just says, "How do I watch this?" And then it says, "Check your email." So I hope it hasn't charged me something.
Let's see.
Or requesting information.
Children of
Prime Video
Doom.
content.
Prime Video.
Yeah, they don't tell me how much. It just says it's just how you do it, and then click on proceed to rent or buy. So is it going to charge me without I even know?
I can't even find it. Got the William Hurt film.
Is
No,
that
the
free
William
on
Hurt
there?
one. No, it's 2001. That can't be right. Is it the William Hurt version?
Yeah, it is. Yeah, yeah,
Oh, okay.
yeah. It's on Freevee. The David Lynch one. I wonder if that free on here because I'll probably watch that again maybe next week.
Yeah, it could
Uh,
be just because you're on a device. Because on my laptop, it'll let me watch it right there, right now.
uh,
At least I think it will.
there it is. 19. Oh, it's rent or buy.
Yeah, doesn't give me an option to rent or buy the John Hurt one.
No, it should be just to watch. It's
No,
free.
completely free. It's shown up on my laptop.
Yeah,
It's
and then you got children. The second one was well based
right.
doing the science children.
Yeah, I noticed it's got the children are doing as well.
Um, oh, what's happened there? I don't know how much it is. It's not telling me how much the 1984 movie is.
I'd watch the Lynch version first, Aaron. The Lynch version is amazing.
Well, he's watched the first one, the first part. Oh, go. I need to go back here. Oh, wow. Okay. Uh, which is the best version of the Maltese Falcon? Oh, by far, it's the Humphrey Bogart one. Is is by far the best. The others are interesting, but yeah, the what's his name? Can't remember the actor slash John Huston was the director. Yeah, Wizard of Oz was a flop when it came out, and only became popular after the Second World War got full swing. I'm going to watch Dune 2 at the end of this week when I got broadband up and running. I'll rewatch part one, watch part two. Is part one free still? I wonder. Is it still free?
Doo-doo-doo. That I can't remember. It looks like it.
Well, if it's only £5, I might go ahead and I might watch all three again.
I can't tell if it's free or if I accidentally purchased it and didn't remember purchasing it.
Hi, Linda. I just arrived. Guess I missed the most. Well, we talked about the books we read, and now we're just talking about films and Dune at the moment. So yeah, I might do that then. Because it might be nice to revisit the David Lynch one. Oh, well, the only thing is, even if I still think it's bad, I'll still enjoy watching Francesca Annis. That's for sure.
She was a good Jessica.
And well, even Sean Phillips was good as the Reverend Mother as well.
I still can't go over her reaction, when she meets Alia.
Yeah,
Yeah. I was like, oh God, I love that kid. I mean, she's better in the book, nice and stabby. Just
I
the way you like
saw
5-year-old.
something. I saw something like a little short or something, and they showed her as the kid, and it's like they show her now and go, what? It's like, well, yeah, that is 30 years ago.
It's not even just that. It's like even what was it? What was his name? Steve Irwin. When you see his kids now, and you forget they're not little kids anymore.
Hmm.
Because it's like on his TV show, obviously you saw like the day his daughter was born in particular, and it's like you see them all grow up, and you're like, oh, they're not little anymore. Because I'm pretty sure his daughter just got married. And you're like, no, you're still a little kid.
Well, it's like I got district nurses or community nurses coming over to bandage my legs because of the cellulitis and stuff. And there's one that's come the most pretty well. And she asked me how long I've been here in the UK. And I said, well, I've been like, I came in 2004. And she says, oh, she was 2 years old then. Oh, God,
I know, it's what made me sad is when you realise that 2004 is when the kids turn 18. Because obviously in my work, they've got to be 18 to come in. And like, great, that means they were 2004 that they were born. I'm like, I feel so bloody old.
like even when people say that they were born in the 90s, or even especially in the 90s, that floors me. And they're 30s, they're yeah, because if there was 94, they're 30 now.
Hmm. I only know that because I'm 84. So I'm 40 this year.
So you came out when the first Dune film was released.
Yeah. I
And
was about, I think it came out, I think 2 months before I was, no, I'm pretty sure, but remember it came out in December. So I think it was about a month old.
so yeah, so I went to see it when, yeah,
I
that
was
that
still
that's
in my nappies.
yeah.
I still grew up loving sci-fi though. Because I think my dad had it. 33. Still just a baby. Like one of the kids that now works with us is 21. I'm like, oh God, I've got jumpers older than you. And then you realise, crap, I sound like my mother and my grandmother.
But then it's weird because you still get people that are like, I'm 58, so, and you get people that are 75 or so saying that I'm young.
Yeah, it's like I've got one customer that comes in and he still refers to us all as kids and sweethearts, and you're like, oh my God, I'm way too old for that. But I mean, it's like he himself is in his, I think he's in his late 60s, early 70s. So to him, we are all children.
But I don't know. I don't know if it is something that is just part of aging that you don't sort of see things. But when I see people, when I see sort of early 20-year-olds now, and compare to when I was in my early 20s and others that were in their early 20s,
Mm.
they seem like they're 12 and 13-year-olds in comparison. Like,
And
I
there's
don't know if
something
that's
going
just,
on that would mature. They'll claim they mature faster, but I'm like, no, I'm sorry, but it's like we stopped behaving like that when we actually were still kids.
yeah, because I just, and well, the thing is too, it's like so many people like we're still living, well, there's people that still, I guess, because of financial things, and that's the thing that's changed.
Mm.
Like when I was young, I was basically on my own when I was 14, and making a living when I was 14, and you could do that. You could rent an apartment. You could do that. Today, you can't. So people are in their 30s and 40s that are still living at home because they can't afford. Well, well, you should be able to afford an apartment by then, or at least a room to move out. But you probably can't afford a house.
It was like my dad had asked why my sister and I still live together. I'm like, because we live in Aberdeen. It's an expensive city to live in.
Linda says she's 71, still maturing in some ways, and everyone is different. Yeah, yeah,
Don't
but
grow up. Trap.
yeah, well, that's the thing. Yeah, like I always say, like I feel like I'm in my head I'm 19, but my body feels like I'm 91.
I wish some in my head I felt even 19. Sometimes I swear I'm the epitome of a 12-year-old boy, still giggling away at fart jokes.
Then I was just, yeah, because what were we talking about? Oh yeah, on the Dune thing of saying, but Two for Howard was Freddie Jones in the 1984 film, and that was say, yeah, have if they're gonna gender swap, have I always say her name wrong, Miriam
Or
Margolis,
Margulies, yeah.
Margolis, yeah.
Oh god, I love her.
She'd be swearing like a trooper and farting and eating their onions and farting all the way through the scenes.
It's when she's even at her age talking about creaming her knickers, and you're just like, it's like I hope I'm like that when I'm her age.
Feel like I'm 19 when I'm at the computer, then I stand up. Yeah, yes.
It's like everybody goes on about the good old days about when they were doing this, that, and the next. I'm like, I miss just not hurting when you woke up in the morning. It was like, who knew sleeping could be so dangerous?
Yeah, well, that's what somebody was like saying that you're old when you sit up from bed, but you don't get up right away.
Mm.
You have to wait. You have to work up to it because,
The
like, yeah, because
rest of your
when
life.
I was young. Hmm?
So I mean, you just sort of sit there and question all your life choices.
Like I remember when I was young, like in my teens and stuff like that, you always hear like old people when they go to move and they get up and they go, ooh, like it's just a natural thing. It's like, why are you making that noise? I know now.
And then it becomes your turn. And you're like, oh my god, there's not enough WD-40 in the world for my creaky joints.
Like me getting out of my chair here is, especially if I haven't done it in like 10 or 20 minutes or just that short of time. It's like, okay, I get to the edge and then I start go,
It's
oh,
like
wait a few
gymnastics.
minutes. And then finally I get up and it's like, oh,
Ta-da!
oh God. And they keep saying like, I had physiotherapists over and they were saying like, oh, the way I can lose weight here is like, I sit in my chair, I put my legs out, I stretch my legs, I pull my foot forward like this, and like this, and then get up, walk to the door like 3 times a day and stuff like this. And I'm going, I get up and walk to the toilet more times than that, and that's a daily occurrence, and at nighttime as well. And I've been doing this with flexing my legs for years. I'm not losing any weight. It's not going to happen because I'm not doing anything. Those people didn't claim more about their aches and pains. It said collagen complex supplements help. Oh,
For the joints or for the weight loss?
joints. I think that it would be for the joints because I got a bad knee because I was hit by a car, well, twice, but my left knee is a bit dodgy, and my hip as well, because I've had some fractures there. But the left knee is a bit dodgy. My left side is just a right away. Shingles twice here, you know. Yeah, just everything's happened to the left side pretty well, you know. This finger has probably 20 scars on it
I'm
or
surprised I
joints.
never broke anything as a kid.
Well, I did my left wrist.
I was such a rough and tumble kid because I used to play with the boys all the time. Never broke anything, not once. I
Well,
felt
that's
so
one.
left out.
Well, now kids, I guess, have been in. They're wrapped up in cotton wool,
Mm.
cotton balls.
They don't go outside. They're permanently on their computer games or social media.
That's why it is funny to see these videos or these shorts where you get. I've lost track. I don't know what they're Gen Zs or whatever they are, or stuff like this. That like they're saying, well, why Gen X? Like why were they doing this? And it's like, yeah, because nobody cared.
Yeah. See, I think millennials, like in our generation, was where it started to go downhill because that's when they started the whole even participation. So it was like, there was no like, kind of, it's like everybody kind of got credited. It's like everyone's special. I'm like, no, because I think it was like, I think 2 years after I left primary school that they stopped doing individual sports and all became about team sports. And I'm like,
Uh,
life, as much as you'd like it to be, is not a team event. It's like, I'm sorry, but if you've got like 20 people all going in for two jobs, they're not going to help each other to get it.
what was the thing? There's no I in team, and I
But
remember
there's
seeing something. I can't remember what it is, but somebody actually put an I, showed that there is an I in team. And I don't know. I can't remember how that was done, but it was fabulous.
yeah, it's like the main saying is there's no I in team, but there is me.
Yeah, or maybe that's what it is. I'm not sure, but
Yeah.
I was sure that somebody figured out some way of doing an I in team.
And it looks like Gen Alpha is basically going to fix some of the problems, though, because that's the younger kids that are like 12 and under. I think it's like Gen X, the Gen Alpha, and they tend to be a bit more rough and tumbly, a bit more like Gen X, and you're like, oh, thank God, we might be saved. They're not
Well,
so
see,
snowflakey.
you were talking about special. When I grew up, the word special usually meant, and not the politically correct sense now, it was somebody who had physical disabilities or mental disabilities. They were special.
Yeah.
That's how that
These
was.
days we call them dyslexic.
Yeah, like now, like as I say, and that's the thing. Like people don't understand that things just come around and go around.
Mm.
Whatever is made fun of now. Like like all these people are saying, "Oh, we shouldn't be doing this," and the virtual signaling and stuff like that. They're going to be pointed out as doing horrible things, whatever that happens to be.
Yeah,
You
it's
know,
when they say about all these things that people said when they were like came like 10 years ago. I'm like, I hate to break in 10 years from now. What you're saying now was probably going to be offensive.
yeah. Oh, I love the little short where you got a police officer saying, like it just keeps saying stuff. Oh, I'd like to apologize for this or something like that. And we just don't know what we're doing. It's like the blind following. I'm sorry to the blind community for saying. It just the
Goes
next
on
thing
and on.
comes out, and it just revolves and revolves, and he just continually makes a screw up.
It was like some folk take it too serious. It was like hairdressers that were asking permission to touch their clients. I'm like, how else are you going to cut their hair?
Yeah.
Are you
Oh
going to
no,
use
the best
silicone?
one was that the parents need to get consent from their babies to change their nappies.
Mm. Or there was one girl that said she was going to sue her parents because she was breastfed and she's vegan. And you're just like, oh, I think that one was a skit though. Okay, it was just like taking the piss out of folk taking it too far. But you're just like, I wouldn't give people ideas; they'll do it.
well, the thing that they will be doing is suing their parents for showing their pictures as a child all over social media.
Mm.
The apology clip is from Scott's Squad, the Times capsule skit. But it's really, yeah, I didn't know what it was fun, but it was just, I knew it was a skit. And it was just hilarious because
Some
he
skits.
doesn't get like 4 words out of his mouth.
My favorite was some of the COVID skits that came out, during the first lockdown. So there was a guy that was washing his hands, and then he touched something and realized that was contaminated. So he washes that, then re-washes his hands, and then eventually he's like washing everything, and then he just sort of slumps to the floor and gives up. He's just like, no.
Well, the thing is, like, there are things that are clearly. I was just thinking. I'm thinking back to Dune here because Frank Herbert has done a number on Baron von Harkonnen because basically he's overweight, so therefore that is a symbol of his degradation.
Mm.
But he says how much he weighs, and Baron Harkonnen weighs less than I do. Okay,
And yet
and
you can
then
still outrun him.
sorry.
At least you can still outrun him.
Yeah. Well, I'd love to have the anti-grav suspenders. That's for sure. Those would be fabulous to have.
I was tempted to see if you could bounce like you're moonwalking, like a baby walker.
And then the other thing is, it's clearly of the time that he thinks, another way to make him very degrading and decrepit and horrible is make he's gay. That's the other
Yeah.
thing.
That and the fact that he likes little boys.
Yes. Yeah.
The littler, the better. You're like, oh,
Yeah.
it's like
Well,
it's not a common thing amongst gay people.
oh yeah, that was yeah, that was what was the because again things changed, but there was the time where they didn't want gay male teachers teaching their children, um, and because they're saying you like you want your child, to be there, and it's like yeah. So and like my question, and I said this so many times was, oh, so it's only gay people that like underage children, you
It
know.
makes you look at Catholic priests in a whole different light, doesn't it?
Well, Aaron does ask, yeah, is the Baron gay or a child of? Well, he's both, I
Both.
guess. He's both, yeah. But then so is the technically, well, he's not a child at that time. And there's the other thing that you always get. Like there was somebody that did a comedy skit by this. Like I think it was Jimmy Carr that was talking about that. A pedophile is the description of a child under a certain age, and then if it's from like 12 to 18 or something like that, it's another thing. But then he kept saying, but every time you try to explain this, you sound like a pedophile.
Yeah, everyone's like, why do you know so much about this?
Yeah. But that's what I was going to say because of the Count Fenrich's wife, said she sat there to have sex with Fade Rotha, who's like 16 or 17, So it's like this is happening.
In the UK, it'd be perfectly legal, though.
Yeah. But
Not so
then,
much in the US.
well, the thing is that I guess he's out there killing people at 17, 16 or 17. I guess you might have it's the same thing as when people are in the army. They couldn't drink till they're 21, but when they're 18, they can go out and kill people and be killed. But you can't have a drink. You're not old enough to have a drink.
It was when they used to laugh about the fact that it's like kids can like in the UK, they can obviously get married, sleep around from the age of 16, but they can't watch porno movies till they're 18. They can obviously join the military at 15 or 16, but they can't play Call of Duty till they're 18. You're just like, what? It makes no sense.
Yeah, well, that was the big thing about the drinking because yeah, like I think it was somewhere in some of the states where you had to be 21. Well, what's the drinking age here?
16. No, 18. 18.
18. Okay.
Yeah, you can drink younger than that, though, just not in a pub. So it's like at family
Oh,
events, like in home, it's like you can drink, but you've got to be supervised. by like your parents and things like that. I think in certain European countries you can drink in certain restaurants, but again, you have got to be supervised. Because I'm pretty sure in France it's like you're allowed alcohol as young as 5 if you're supervised, like a glass of wine. But in the UK, it's just it's only illegal technically to purchase the alcohol under 18. It doesn't actually state you have to be 18 to drink it. You just can't buy it.
I remember there was a co-op that was nearby a place that I lived in Bedford, and I'd go in there because it was, yeah. For people who don't know, co-op is, correct me if I'm wrong, but it's like a little small grocery store.
Mm.
Like it's got everything. In Canada, co-op is something else where you go to get your feed and stuff like that for cows. That is a different thing, and it's where everybody anyway. So I go in there, and they must have had this thing saying no purchase of alcohol without identification. And I basically look like I do now, and they refused to sell me some beer because I didn't have identification saying my age. And I'm going, really?
It's what we used to joke about with kid at work. It's like, do you think the Queen needed ID, or do you think she just hold up a £10 note? And she goes, "This is me."
Aaron saying in some U.S. states you can do porn at 18, but you can't buy the porn until you're 21.
It's like that poor kid. It was in Aliens. The one that played Newt. Obviously, she was in the film. She knows exactly how it was made, but she wasn't allowed to go to the premiere because she
Oh
wasn't
yeah,
old enough to watch the film. And you're just like,
yeah. Well, I don't know if you like you watch some sort of 70s Italian films, and you're going, how do they get away with this? With actually clearly like there isn't nudity on the underage people, but they're in scenes where there's nudity. And you
well,
just
it's just the Italians.
yeah, it's just bizarre. And then you go thinking of stuff that what's the one of the last Hammer films with I bought it on film there, on Blu-ray with Christopher Lee.
I think you did, but most of their Hammer films.
Oh, Aaron knows which one I'm talking about. With Nastasia Kinski is on it,
Okay.
and she does a full frontal nude scene. She was 14 when that was filmed. Just for yeah, the devil to the devil a daughter. She was 14 when that was filmed, and I'm going. It was done in the mid 70s, and I'm going. That's still a
Because
little.
it was like Jodie Foster. What was it? Taxi Driver. She was like 14, and the stuff they had her doing, they actually had to have a therapist on set to make sure she was okay.
And then there was what is it? Brooke Shields did this
Yeah,
one, I think, but she was only 10, 9
yeah.
or
I'm pretty sure she regretted that one too, because I don't
yeah,
think she wanted to do it.
yeah. That was I'm surprised that we even it was able to get made. And that's not that long ago. That's well maybe 70s, but it's just bizarre. It's just bizarre. Or even what's her name? Helena Bonham Carter, with where she played the queen. Basically, she was queen for a day, or a little more than a day.
Oh, one of
Uh,
Henry VIII's wives.
no, I can't remember now. But anyway, she was like 16 or 17, I think, and there was lots of nude scenes in that.
Mm.
But yeah, it's weird like that they seem to get away with stuff like that at times, and then now it's like, yeah, well, which is understandable. Like you don't want Lady Jane Grey. That's it.
Yeah, I know they're quite strict with kids these days. Because I remember watching, the remake for Hills Have Eyes. Have you seen that one yet?
No, but I know
Well,
that there was, and I know there was
yeah.
a
Well, there
sequel.
was the scene with obviously the baby, and there's one of the bad guys who's obviously flashing the gun next to the baby, and the mother basically checked that gun 3 times before she ever allowed it anywhere near her baby.
Hmm.
She was still paranoid that something was going to happen to her child. I'm like, I get it, especially if the baby was only a few months old.
Well, it's like people like I mentioned, 1990s film that I love is Train Spotting,
Mm.
and a
Oh,
lot
that
of
baby
people
scene still gives me
can't.
nightmares.
Hmm?
That baby scene still gives me nightmares.
Yeah, which one? Where the baby dies
Oh,
or
no,
crawls
trying to
on the
crawl
ceiling?
on. I mean, when you see it in the crib, it's quite tragic, but it's just the way it's creeping down the kind of thing like a little spider. You're just like, ah, no,
Have you read the book?
no, no.
Okay. Now, when you read the book and you I won't go into details, but I'll just say you might question any time that you go to a restaurant and you don't want to say bad things to the waiter or waitress.
Who
Yeah,
knows what you'll get in your food then?
yeah. Well, that was the whole thing. It was like tomato soup. I remember something in tomato soup that didn't quite
Well, it's even
fit.
funnier when you don't do anything. It's like in Big Bang Theory when Penny's basically when she's still working in the restaurant. She's like, "There's your burger. Eat it. I dare you." And you just see him looking at his burger going, and there's nothing wrong with it. She hasn't done it, and she just messed with him because she knows it makes him uncomfortable.
That's a weird show because I find it difficult to watch a whole episode. I
You've
find it
really got
really,
to like that kind of humor.
yeah, but it's just, but I have at times seen the skits,
Hmm.
or not skits, but like little shorts that have been done on Facebook or something. And
Hmm.
I enjoyed watching those occasionally, but I can't sit down and watch a whole episode. It's too cringe worthy. It's too cringing. I don't know.
It's especially Howard's character, kind of the one with the big Beatles bowl cut. I mean, don't get me wrong, he gets a better character kind of later on once he finally settles down, but oh, his early episodes, you're just like, oh, Penny should have punched him way earlier than she did.
Which one is that? Is that the one? Yeah, that's after the neighbor, the Penny.
Howard is the engineer, the only one that isn't a doctor. And he's the one that's got like the bowl cut and the turtlenecks.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Okay.
The one that's after her is Leonard with the little
Yeah.
hoodies all the time and the glasses.
He's the runt of the litter.
Yeah, he's the little one. I mean, Sheldon's still one of the funniest characters, though. For being so smart, he's just so clueless.
I kind of find it neat because I couldn't stand the character on the Next Generation that Will Wheaton played, the kid.
Mm.
Couldn't stand the character, but I kind of love how he has morphed into this thing, especially through that. I think playing himself, sort of.
Yeah, it's quite funny when he plays a fictional version of himself.
And he was on Eureka too, and actually he wasn't bad on. I think it was
Yeah.
Eureka.
You
Yeah,
feel kind of bad for him playing such a horrible, kind of like such an obnoxious character because everybody thought that was him. And you're just like, no, he's actually quite good. Because like in Big Bang Theory, you even ad-libbed a section. So they had one of the episodes was based around the new Star Wars movie coming out, came when the new trilogy started. So the first Rey movie, and he walks in a Star Trek uniform, and everybody just sort of looks at him. He's like, "Live long and suck it."
what was it? I just saw something where it must have been some kind of thing, just kissing George Lucas's rear end, but uh, William Shatner was on stage saying something, and they had two stormtroopers on each side of him. And as soon as he started saying something disparaging, they were sort of turning their guns toward him. Oh, that was kind of funny.
It's always fun when they lean into it. It's like sometimes you wonder if it came like if you panned out just so much, you would actually see them there with their guns.
There was something else I was going to say about the. Oh, I've lost it now. I think it had something to do with the Big Bang Theory. Oh, the other thing that I dislike about that, too, well, okay, dislike, is the theme song.
Oh, I love it. It gets stuck in your head.
Well, the thing is, okay, there was two bands that were out at the same time in Canada.
Mhm.
The Bare Naked Idiots, the Bare Naked Ladies that did that song, and another group called the Sky, just called Sky Diggers. Sky Diggers were fabulous. They never took off like these other ones, and for some reason that I just don't get it. And that's the one thing that I just don't get it. It's the Sky Diggers that had the talent and still got the talent, but they've struggled on. They've continued, but they never made a big hit. The first two, three albums are just absolutely fabulous, but they just never made it. And but they continued on, with band members leaving and the two main ones staying, and they're still doing stuff. They're still recording stuff, and they've got a big following, like in a sense, but they're not. They're just they hit a ceiling, and I think that's where they hit a ceiling like 40 years ago, and that's where they are almost, or 30 some years ago.
You always feel bad for a lot of them. It's like it's proof that talent means nothing anymore. I mean, look at all these people on like YouTube and TikTok and all like that, and it's how they get their music out because they know they've got the talent and the skill, but it's like it doesn't seem to go anywhere for them.
Yeah.
And then you get like other people, it's like they seem to be able to take off. It's like I was watching videos today about Fourth Wing, and I'm like, oh my god, how is this book so popular?
Yeah, well, that's what I mean. Like in Lost Illusions, there with how it's a lot of the stuff is manufactured. It's a lot of it is manufactured, and the critics can manufacture it, and I think it still is because well, it's manufactured in the sense, even if you get one critic that is an influential critic that really likes the book, and it could be good,
Mhm.
but that will be the make or break of that book, is that one person saying that it was good, and then everybody else will get on the bandwagon. So in a sense, that's almost artificial. It's not, because people are word of mouth, I guess. And the other thing that I think is it seems to have been word of mouth is the Harry Potter seems to be word of mouth,
Mhm.
um,
I
and
mean,
that
it's fine for what it is, but it's like if I had to choose, kind of like if I had like nieces and nephews and they had to choose between Harry Potter or Percy Jackson, I'd be putting them on Percy Jackson every time. It's better written. And at least it's, I mean, don't get me wrong, he obviously sanitizes the original Greek myths, as you kind of have to, especially with Zeus's backstories. But most of it's all still there. It's just obviously when the kids are older, you can teach them. Didn't quite go quite so amicably as Rick Riordan would have you believe. Because obviously Medusa even shows up in the first one, and you're just like, yeah, she wasn't a date of Poseidon's.
yeah, I haven't read any of that stuff, so I didn't know what it was about. I heard Percy Jackson, but I didn't realize it was actually mythology.
Mhm. It's like Greek myth. The kids are all demigods. He wrote it for his son because his son has ADHD and dyslexia, so he made it like a common trait with demigods. That the reason they have ADHD is because they're ready to fight, and the reason they're dyslexic is because they're hardwired for ancient Greek, so they can read ancient Greek just fine. They just can't read anything else. They struggle, but it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, well, I think a lot of stuff too. You have to read it at the right age. Um, like I said, I think I was a little too old when I read. You mentioned Tarzan,
Mhm.
and sometimes you're too old to read some stuff, but you can still enjoy it. But like Tarzan and stuff like that would have been perfect at 12 years old. And it sounds like stuff like that. You got to hit it at the sweet spot.
Well, Percy Jackson works as an adult as well. It's just obviously it's because most adults would be familiar with the myths. You can predict what's going to happen, but some of the emotional parts they still hit pretty hard.
Yeah, like a lot of people. Oh, they like the Just William books. I think they're fabulous, but yeah, I kind of wonder how a lot of parents would feel it's like a delinquent, schoolboy. Basically, that's how it would be looked at, as a delinquent. Oh, shouldn't be having them doing, making him a hero of being a delinquent and doing naughty things. Stupid, not naughty in the sexual sense, but
Why?
being a naughty boy. You know.
Oh, why not? We love Dennis the Menace. They don't become more mischievous than him.
Yeah, well, would that even fly today? I don't even know if that. Yeah, because they probably people would have problems with that
Oh,
as well.
probably.
Just everything that's if it's fun, they want to destroy it.
especially when it goes near their kids. They're like, nope, they can't do that. Ban it forever. Like, it just makes everybody want to read it more. Because kids want to know what's wrong with it, and I'm like, are you kidding me? There's like half a mention to a sex scene, and that's all of a sudden they need to ban it, and the kids are just like, there's nothing in here.
Well, it was the same thing. Well, just on a different level. It's like Debs was saying yesterday, she couldn't understand how Dune, like people say, it's a difficult book or it's intimidating. It's not.
Mhm.
It's not difficult. And this thing, like I was talking to Duncan at Back Away from the Donkey, um, and we did a sort of a live thing because he did the thing about how booktube or YouTube or social media can help destroy sort of some books and get people off reading because they do use these things. Oh, it's a difficult book. Oh, look at the size of it, it's intimidating. And I'm going, like, why, how?
The
It's
only
not.
reason I thought it'd be hard is because everybody said, oh, it's like the sci-fi equivalent of Lord of the Rings, and obviously Lord of the Rings takes quite a while to get into it, before the actual action starts, whereas that one starts pretty quick, and I was like, this is nothing like Lord of the Rings.
uh,
It gets going pretty quick, and you kind of feel for the characters pretty fast. I mean, you enjoy the Lord of the Rings characters fast, but it's like, it's a very slow start. It's like, I think you're halfway through the Fellowship of the Ring, and they still haven't actually embarked on the actual mission to go and destroy the ring.
well, I think people are well, see, the thing is they just believe everybody else. They just but I suppose if all you're reading, if you're at the level or all you're reading is young adult stuff like Harry Potter,
Mm.
then something like this is going to be, I suppose, intimidating with that much text.
Yeah.
Like it doesn't matter where you open up the book. Well, that's a little more white spaces, but not much. Um, and but the thing is, and or page numbers like Les Miserables, they people talk about, oh, it's so big, so like this, but it's like, okay, well, do you? I always say, well, do you read it all? And they go,
Mm.
yeah. And it's like, well, how many books have you read in the last like couple months? And they'll sometimes say, if they say 10, I'm going, yeah. Do you know how many pages that is? That's more pages than Les Miserables.
It's just when you see it like that, it looks terrifying. Because it's like Lord of the Rings is obviously like, I think it's 1,100 pages, my copy, because it's like all three books together. And yet I wouldn't even hesitate picking it up and reading it. And yet there's other ones that are like much shorter, and you just think, no.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like I still got a project that's been ongoing to reread the Jane Austen novels, and I started out chronologically. And I started out doing Sense and Sensibility, which is shortest. It's only like 200 and some pages. I think it's really short. Oh, that's so difficult to get through. It's like I could, and it's not difficult in the sense of language and stuff like that. It's the kind of thing is like I find something if I call it difficult, I mean if I'm reading the page and before I get a third of the way down the page, my mind is wandering and I don't know what I'm reading
Mhm.
because it's not the book is either it's not engaging me or my mind is somewhere else. But in this case, it was the book was not engaging me, so I have to be very concentrated, read a page or two, then I have to put it aside. So it was like a week later, and I still didn't even get halfway through it.
I think the closest I've gotten to Jane Austen, apart from watching a few of the films, is Pride, Prejudice, and Zombies.
Oh yeah, I did like that. I'd like to read the book. I'd like to read the book. Yeah, I did enjoy that, and I thought that was a great adaptation.
I even enjoyed the movie.
No, yeah, the movie. That's like, I haven't read the book. I've only seen the
Oh,
movie.
I've done the movie and the book.
Well, I got to read the book.
Yeah.
I do want to, but
There's
that's
some
yeah.
slight differences, but it makes you look at the ball scenes very differently. Even the Keira Knightley in Pride and Prejudice, like, where's my zombies?
No, it was good. I don't know if that was the first one that sort of took off that kind of thing, and then all of a sudden everybody was doing that kind of like
Mm.
book wise.
I think it was right after that was the Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter, which I also really liked.
Oh, I want to read that one as well. Like that's what I want to see.
I
I
haven't
think
read
there's a
that one
movie.
because they've got there's the Wuthering Heights one. I think that one's werewolves that they stuck
Okay,
in
that
that
makes
one.
sense. That makes sense.
They did it with a few of them, and it's like, "Oh, you can't get them all on Kindle anymore." I'm like, "No, I don't wanna buy them physically." But I may just buy them physically just to read them because they look so silly.
Yeah, well, yeah, like I don't know. Well, the
'Cause Sense and Sensibility got one as well. I think that one they got, like, Davy Jones, I think it's sort of thing on his cover.
yeah, because I definitely want the Pride and Prejudice and Is it? Yeah, it's Pride and Prejudice and
Pride, Prejudice, and Zombies, yeah.
and the Abraham Lincoln Vampire Killer.
I just love that shotgun hidden in his axe. I'm like, "That's brilliant."
What else? Well, like I say, like, yeah, I guess it depends on how well it's done, and because they've got to do it, like to me, or at least the way the film was. That's the only one I've seen is the Pride and Prejudice and Zombies. They weren't taking themselves seriously. Like it was
No.
clearly that it was a setup, and but it was a serious film in a sense.
Mhm.
But it was, you know what I mean? Like it's
Yeah.
I can't explain what I mean, but it's that kind of thing. And as long as they do that, even in the book, I'm up for it. I'm up
Oh
for
god,
it.
it's not taking itself seriously at all.
Because especially if they, they take, because there's so many scenes in any book that you could just see that and just take it and just twist it, and it's just that to me is just fun.
I
Um,
love the fact that in the book, though, it's still credited as being a Jane Austen novel, so it's like Jane Austen and then whoever it was that adapted it. I'm like, "Oh, that's brilliant." They've even left her name on it.
did they actually change? Like, did they just? Is there dialogue? Is there stuff from her her writing that's actually still in there?
I think so. It's funny because I haven't read the book, so I've only ever watched some of the adaptations. So a lot of kids literally hits every single boot beat that the original Pride and Prejudice hits. It's just they've added zombies in, so the balls all get stopped usually by a zombie attack.
Yeah,
Hey,
yeah. I
Gareth.
could get maybe next year. Maybe I'll do a year of something like that. A book a month.
Mm.
A book a month, something like that. I'm sure it'd be easy to get a one for every month.
Because I don't think they did all of Jane Austen. I know they did Sense and Sensibility. Uh, I know they did Jane Eyre and Wuthering Heights. I know they're not Austen's film books, but I know they did those three in particular.
Yeah, the werewolves for Wuthering Heights would work. The werewolves would work for
Mm.
that. Uh, yeah, I'm gonna have to look into that. I've got to keep that in the back of my mind. Oh, Gareth's here. Ride late. Been away today. Hello. Yeah, I think we're at the 2 hour mark, so we're not marathoners like Gareth is. 5 hour lives. I can't do that.
You know,
Uh,
Gareth can do it because he's always got his biscuits to get him through.
oh, Linda's
You're
still
still
here.
here too.
Yeah. I don't know what else. Oh, what do you have lined up for reading? Let's get back to reading.
I am currently reading White Knight, which is the newest, not the newest, it's my next Dresden book.
Ah,
And then I've got to read the third part for The Strain, so The Night Eternal. Now that the nukes have all gone off and the world has ended, the vampires are about to take over.
yeah. I've got. I don't know why this is. Well, this is the. I always get the name wrong. Library of America edition. I took the jacket off, but it's the 1960s science fiction one. Because I don't think I think Mark has backed out of most things. Mark book time with Elvis, most things, but Scott Danielson and I were reading 3 books this month that are we're similar. Less Darkness Fall was the first one, um, by no, Alsprague de Camp, and then the next one is the High Crusade by Paul Anderson, and then we're going to read. That's medieval, and then the other one is alternate history of the American Civil War called "Bring the Jubilee." So High Crusade is next. It's really short. It's only 130 some pages in here, 135 pages. What else? Well, finishing up Dune this week at some point, and then da-dum dum da-dum dum da-dum dum da-dum dum da-dum
Ah,
dum.
a little known author that I've only heard you talk about once or twice.
That's this month's choice for or that I chose, uh, and then this is an extra one that's uh, for my Patreon club, and I think um, Scott Danielson. Jeez, see, this is I can't stay too long on these things because my brain goes. Um, I wanted to read this, and it's really funny because it's set in the future where the Earth is a university. They've got time travel. They've brought a Neanderthal man up who's got he's got like 5 PhDs by now, and they've got a ghost who doesn't know who he's the ghost of, and he's a scaredy cat. He's scared of everything, but he's a ghost. They bring William Shakespeare up to their future, and I think yeah he leaves and he doesn't want to go back. So Gareth's saying, Sean, when you go on our show, you can have naps that come back. Yeah, I'll need naps for sure.
And snacks.
When Terry Pratchett did crossover between Pride and Prejudice and The Lord of the Rings, and he described it in an interview, he wrote a scene of a ball being interrupted by an orc attack. Okay. Oh, that reminds me because there's um, Kim Newman has done Hound of the D'Urbervilles, I think it is. It's Hound of the Baskervilles combined with Tessa of the D'Urbervilles, and I want to read that. My last comment should say when he was a schoolboy.
I know you got my hopes up thinking that there was a Terry Pratchett book out there with a Lord of the Rings Pride and Prejudice crossover.
Oh, this is the one we're reading for the faded pages. Linda is Goblin Reservation. Another science fiction. We did it one other science. I think just one other one. We did the word for world is tree by Ursula K. Le Guin, and I just sort of thought, well, because last month was was a nonfiction book on the Foundling Hospital, and kind of a grim subject, but also not that well written. So I thought this would be a nice little fluffy thing. Yeah, fluffy.
The original and cozy sci-fi.
I was trying to figure out what the I can't figure out what the cover is supposed the cover art is sort of. I can't figure it out. That it looks so weird. But I like these. I want to get a complete run of all this style of ones that did. Well, let's get rid of that. Because it's got this pyramid thing for the A, and I want to get them all. But this one's in kind of rough shape. Word for word is first Le Guin book I ever read. Yeah, it was a good book. Yeah.
I've still to read Le Guin. I've got, I think, the first three of the. Oh Christ! What the hell call them again? With the dragons and stuff. I completely forgotten the name of them.
Oh, um, Earthsea.
Earthsea, aye. I've got like the first three of them because I've heard they're quite good. The dragons are pretty impressive in that one.
That
I
was
do
the
like dragons.
first Le Guin that I read. I read the first Earthsea trilogy before I think the other ones were written. I didn't like them, and I didn't read her for a long time.
Mm.
It took me a long time to get back to reading her, and then I read uh, maybe it was Rokan's World or something. I read something, and I liked it, so um, I just try to keep the Earthsea stuff out of my mind.
Well, I didn't even realize she wrote sci-fi until I noticed she was in the the sci-fi masterworks.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, you write sci-fi as well. I thought she was just a fantasy author.
Linda, yeah, anytime. Just send me a message. Jenny, read the Earthsea books. Yeah, the first. As you're a fantasy fan, I have a few of the books in that series. I haven't read them. I should reread them, but I do want to go through more of her stuff because the Library of America has I always forget the name of this one, but it's very heavily done in anthropology, um, and they've reprinted, I think, the full story, the full novel. It's got an extra 400 pages. It's not for most people, clearly. Like it really gets heavily into the anthropology of the aliens, or I think, if I remember right, potential aliens. So it's not really for a lot of people, but it's something that I think well, I know I read the original and I liked it, so I'd love to read the rest of it, and I'd love to get the Library of America ones because I think they're doing everything of hers. And I would probably reread Earthsea again, eventually. But if I do, and like, yeah, you're going to be a completist with hers. Yeah, I think that's. Uh, I would like to do the same thing, but I would leave the Earthsea stuff for um, the last. I think to look at. Yeah, she was, because wasn't her parents. Wasn't her parent? Wasn't one of her parents an anthropologist or an ethnologist? Oh, I can't remember now.
It's her dad. Gareth's got it up.
Oh, yeah. Okay, yeah. I knew that it was in there somewhere.
Mm.
Um, hi, Alex. Hello, Alex. Yeah, but yeah, I definitely want to because that's what I say. Like, I haven't made any further steps in it. Word for Worlds, Tree is the last one I read, and I've got some other ones. I've got the Masterworks ones that have been in there, but yeah, I don't know which ones those are. Like, I haven't really, or yeah, some of her last stuff I'm not familiar with at all. What I should do is get a list of everything that she has written. And well, actually, the best way, I think the Library of America are going to do like the really good editions of them, like complete editions. So that might be the best way to go about it, is just do it through the Library of America. But they're expensive. Like, single books are like £30, but you do get a lot in there.
Mm.
Like
Yeah, at least
this,
she's good.
hmm?
So at least it's not like some of the new authors where you kind of got to take a chance. You know she is a good author.
Yeah,
Even if you don't enjoy it, it's like she's still good. It was like Gareth more one of his more recent videos. He's obviously got House in the Cerulean Sea. I'm like, please read it. It's so good.
who's that? What's that one?
House in the Cerulean Sea. It's TJ Klune. It's basically about an orphanage with magic kids, and the social workers got to go and make sure that the kids are all taken care of. And one of the kids is a 6-year-old Antichrist, and he's brilliant.
Yeah, I'd never heard of that. So
No, I think it was when cozy fantasy first started coming out, because it's ultimately what he writes, and it's like, oh, it's so good.
I said this could be this week, I guess.
I'm so
Yeah,
excited for the sequel. The sequel comes out this year. I'm like, yay! More Lucy and more Chauncey.
yeah. There's a lot of that stuff that sounds interesting. I don't know why I've been trying to think of, because people keep asking me why I don't like fantasy, and it's not that I dislike it, because this has fantasy in, and he does other fantasy stuff. It's just every time I pick up something that people like so much of fantasy, I don't get it. I don't get it. It doesn't work for me.
I think there's only parts of Lord of the Rings you'll probably like. I don't actually think you'd like it, but It's still the sort of one you're like, please let everybody read it.
Well, it's like I was geared up to read it, but then when I disliked The Hobbit so much, it's not that I hated The Hobbit. It's just
Mm.
I didn't like it so much, and then it just took the steam out of reading, uh, 1,000 pages of thinking the same thing because
Well, the
that
upshot is
was
Lord of the Rings is very much for adults. It's like kids can it's like they don't generally tend to like it because it is much more
yeah,
character focused. But I think Silmarillion's still going to be the one you'd enjoy the most
yeah.
because
Well,
it's
that's
far
that's
more
what
in depth.
my friend Adam says too. The Silmarillion will be the
Mhm.
one I like. But yeah, so it's like it's the kind of thing where but it did take the wind out of my sails for that. So I just never got around to it because I'm thinking in my mind because it took me so long to read The Hobbit too.
Mhm.
It should only have taken me a day to
It's like
read.
250 pages or something like that.
Yeah, I could have read it at least. Well, I could have read it in a day if I really wanted to at
Mhm.
that time, and maybe 2 days. Um, but it took me several weeks, and it's not because I'm reading it all the time. It's just I just was putting it aside. I'm reading other stuff. So yeah, and then I think, do I want to get caught up in a 1,000-page book and feel the same thing?
Oh, it's very,
That's
very different.
that's
I think it's
that's that's where I can understand people not wanting to read a long book. If you've read something else by the author that you don't like, that makes sense. Um,
but I
and
read it every year. I love it.
sometimes read fantasy, but usually avoid it. But I like magical realism. I haven't read too much of because I'm not even. I know what is supposed to be magical realism, but I don't think I've ever read it. I think I've read sort of Gargantua and Pantagruel. I think is potentially proto magical realism, but I'm not sure. Yeah, I just I know authors and I know people that really like the magical realism, but I've just never really delved into it.
And it doesn't help. It's not easy to define either. 'Cause it's like if it skews too far to the magical part, it becomes urban fantasy or paranormal.
If you find a fantasy book where you love the characters, it can be yeah. I think that's really what it is. I have to find something um, that would um, that would work for me. That's the thing, and most of these things, like the Wheel of Time and all these other huge series, I don't have the interest or to even look at them to see. There might be something I'd like in it, but I don't want to spend what 10,000 pages reading stuff that I'm not gonna that I potentially may not like.
Wheel of Time's a hell of a lot longer than that.
Oh,
I need to finish that one because
I
it's like 15 books.
read the Hobbit and Lord of the Rings trilogy when I was a teenager before I had preference to avoid fantasy novels. I liked the books back then.
So I
Great.
also wonder if maybe we imprint a bit. Like if you start your reading journey with sci-fi, then that's where you're going to go. You're not going to enjoy fantasy as much. Whereas I grew up reading fantasy, so sci-fi is a little trickier for me.
But then for me, it was a bit of a combination because I think some of the really earliest stuff like I didn't start reading too much until I was in my late teens and early 20s. So I read a little bit, but it was like I read Edgar Rice Burroughs. So I read, John Carter, the Barsoom stuff when I was 14, 15, or some of it at that point. And that has a fantasy element to it.
Mhm.
But yeah, a great short book I really like is Time Machine. But yeah, that's really quick read. Midnight. Yeah, I've heard. I just came across that the Midnight Library. Is that one because there's a few things where there's a library. I'm not sure if that's it, but there's a series of books where there's a library in a different dimension.
Well, this one's not. This is Matt Haig's book, I think, where when the lassie, she's either just died or she's on the edge of death, and she's given a chance to live like if she'd made different choices in her life.
Okay. Yes. Yeah. I remember seeing something about that. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it sounds like it could be interesting. Yeah, Liz says I read Time Machine. Should read. Yeah, I started a year or so ago. I was gonna start reading through it, like all the fiction and stuff like that, and I started doing that. And it's just so many things like I'd like to do, and just never, for some reason, I just get sidetracked. It's usually always health that breaks it, and then by the time I get back, it's gone, and I don't do it. It's like I haven't continued with the Future History Project, and I got through all the I got through all the garbage that was not written by Asimov. So now I'm ready to do all the Asimov Foundation books. But I haven't picked it back up. But I've got other ones that I am going to start doing, or I'm going to try to do. And see, the thing is, the biggest mistake that I've had is that I sort of set myself a term of time to do it, a
Mm.
period of time to do it, and that's the problem because I know now that it's really difficult for me even to do a month ahead, let alone a year.
Oh, all my readings planned for the entire year, so I've got like pick lists for each month, and I'm not allowed to read anything that isn't in that one block.
Yeah, you see, like if my health was better, I might be able to do that. But it's just I break out of the cycle of reading that, and then it's like when I get back into reading, it's something else that's got me back in.
Mhm.
And that's the problem. Like I still like it was floated. That somebody was asking to read the next year the Anthony Pohl's Dance to the Music of Time, and I was starting to do that last year, or for the fifth time to try to finish it, and I didn't. And I'm thinking, okay, I should get back into that. And then there were so many things last year that I was doing, and once I got um, the eviction notice, everything stopped.
Mhm.
But no, my whole point was that I have this fixed period of time that I'm going to do it, but I shouldn't think of it that way. I'm now kind of thinking, well, these are things that I'm going to do. So if I don't read it for a month or maybe a year, it's still there. I'm going to pick it up again eventually, but I'm not going to do it in a like a short period, especially if it's big. If it's 3 or 4 books, then that's easy enough for me to to push through.
No, I
Um,
sometimes work better with deadlines because I remember struggling with Dracula because it was boring the crap out of me to start with until you guys told me, right, no, you've got until the next live stream to finish it.
oh yeah.
And then I managed to finish it.
Yeah, but see, that's one book. That's one book.
Mm.
But if it's a whole series of stuff, then that's where I get a little difficult with. I have difficulty at times. But yeah, Linda said, yeah, she gets sidetracked and distracted. Well, short stories, yeah, they are really good, and I see. I want to get back to those as well. Um, and then what? Because see, I want to get all my books out because there's so many things that I want to start doing, and to pull some of the stuff off, like the short stories, the Wells short stories. Like I'll have the books to hand. Oh, I'll jump back in and read another story of Wells. I don't know where the hell the books are now in order to do that.
Probably the
Yeah,
bottom box in your living room.
yeah, and that's the problem because I do have several projects that I want to start working on that are big. Like there's that Mysteries of London one.
Mhm.
I want to read through all that. That's going to be probably like 15,000 or more pages in total. I want to. I'm trying to get my friend to find the set of Arnold Toynbee's Study of History, which is 11 volumes. Well, 11, 10 or 11 volumes of the main text, and then there was another volume. But anyway, it's a long sort of study of history that Arnold Toynbee did, and I want to read through that. I've never read it all the way through, so I want to do that. And then what's the other one? Oh, I've got the Charles Booth's Poor of London. Yeah. Um, but yeah, it's just there's so much that I want to do. But again, I'm going to think of this as I'm not going to do this in the next year. If I do wind up having a run of stuff, that's fine, but it's not going to be done that way. Sean, you're too far away now for, yeah. It's not the easiest place to get to up here. And for anywhere, I don't think even coming south probably would be difficult too because it's out of the way here. I think I also still have books in boxes out in my cargo trailer. Never unpacked since I moved into the new home. Yeah, well, I'm hoping by the end of the year it's done. I agree. Well, the short stories are cool. There are a couple in the British Library classic short stories edited by Mike Ashley. Yeah.
See, you guys, this is why I will always tease my libraries all in one place. Well, most of it. I think
It
I'm
would
now
be
up to like 35 physical books. I'm like, oh dear, I'm getting physical books again.
like I did a video contemplating of just getting my reading down to a cycle of 1 year reading of favorite books that I can reread over and over.
Mm,
Is getting a list that will take me a year to read, and that would be that. It'd be still quite a few books because it'd probably be could be like over 200 books, give or take. Um, Maybe give it at about 150 to 200 books, but then just recycle, just I could just start again rereading them.
mm.
And there are almost that number of books I think I could do. I could almost stretch out a year's reading, and then start again the next year rereading. I kind of like that idea,
Mm.
and that's where I don't need the thousands of books that I have, and and then you don't need that either.
Oh, we don't need any of the books, but
No,
no.
I just got my first bookcase yesterday. Small one is now full already. Yeah, I need more bookcases, and they'll be full immediately.
I remember when Amy moved into her place, she got a bookcase up and she had her books, and she just sort of looked at me. She goes, "Yes, you can go and arrange my books now." I'm like, "Yes."
You've got all your books backed up there, don't you, on somewhere?
Yeah. Well, it's all Kindle, so even if I get a new device, it saves all of them, even the ones that aren't even for sale anymore.
Oh, I don't
I was
trust.
tempted to do what Kane Ollie does and strip all the DRM from them.
Yeah, I don't trust that kind of thing. Yeah, Aaron is saying, yeah, it's probably easier to get to Aberdeen than Carlin Howe. Yeah.
And get direct trains now.
Well, the Kindle's cool, Jenny. Physical media is awesome.
I know, but it's heavy. It's like you should see my copy of the first ever copy of Lord of the Rings I've got. It's literally held together with sellotape and willpower. It's like, oh, it got bashed around so much because it went everywhere with me.
Well, somebody gave me the that new single volume hardcover.
Mm,
Um,
it's so
Lord
pretty.
of the, yeah, and there's the Hobbit. Even though I don't like I'd love to have the Hobbit with it. And then there's the Silmarillion as well. Like those would be nice to have on the shelf
Mhm.
together, because I probably reread this. It's like I have several copies of this, but this is sort of a reading paperback. And the problem with this is the other books, like the second one, I think is a large format as well. But then
Mm.
the other books are mass market paperbacks. They don't match. So, and you do want nice things on the shelf.
I've got about 8 copies of Lord of the Rings. I've got like, oh my god. I've got about 3 digital copies because I've got them separated as well as together. I've got about 2 or 3 copies of them physically, and I've got both audio versions.
Well, you've got you read it every year though, don't you? You say
Yeah,
there's the one thing
starts
that
in
I'm gonna.
August.
Hmm?
It starts in August because I read one book each month. So it's Silmarillion, Hobbit, then Fellowship, Two Towers, and Return of the King.
Well, I think for the next little while, I've set my task now because I've done it 2 years in a row, is to read Les Miserables every year. But now I've read the newest translation twice. So next year I'll be going backwards in time for the previous translations, and I'll next year read the Julia Rose translation, and then move back. So, and then once I get them all read, then I'll probably be rereading them all again and then doing a bigger comparison. So by that time, I'll probably have read it 25, 30 times. Um, I also like the odd book or record. Yeah, records are heavy. I know that. You read too fast. You could do that. I don't read. That's the thing. I don't read that fast. I don't. It's just that I don't have anything else to do. It's where was it? Was I think it was Randy Ray was talking about some critic that he likes that said he gets like how to make time for reading, and he said like he gets up in the morning and to read, like he starts reading, and then he gets diverted by work, lunch and other things like that, and that's all I do now. It's like I get up, but it's because of my sleeping habits that I got 15 hours plus a day that I need to rest and I can't do anything. But that's all I do. I read, and everything else is interspersed. It our That's what I do is read, and sleeping is part of it. Eating, going to the toilet, sometimes watching something. Yeah, but I don't read that fast. That's the thing. I wish I did read faster. I can. It depends on what it is, but I just spend a long time. So it's CD or audiobook. Physical media uh, books burn quickly. My home was in a forest fire. Still have my Kindle books from before. Actually, books don't burn that quickly. It takes a lot to burn books, but if it's in a house that's burning, then it will burn. But it's
Also
unlike
depends on the cover. Some
yeah.
of those hardbacks are surprisingly protective.
Well, that's the thing, like because I have seen like wow, a forest fire. That's a little different because you got a fire that's like a freight train coming through there, But a normal house fire, normal house fire, books, yeah, but yeah, the forest fire, it's like a freight train going through. But yeah, there's because I've seen houses that have burned down. These books are still there. Oh wow, that's that is that is bad. That's the thing. I've lost books and like in different ways, but thankfully, I don't even want to jinx it. I'm not going to say certain ways that I don't want it.
Knock on wood.
Anyway, I should get going. Yeah, well, it's 2.5 hours. I am getting tired, and I should eat something today. So I will say goodbye, everybody, and thanks for stopping by. We're ending on like more than twice as many people that we did for the first hour and a half. Yeah. But thanks everybody for stopping by. It was enjoyable. I'll be back next week. I think with Brandy. Depends if she's quite busy these days, but yeah, we'll see. But I'm hoping to continue to do these on Sundays. So thanks everybody. Thanks. Yeah, thank you for stopping by, Linda.